Who am I really? Who am I really? It's a question that has echoed in the halls of human thought for millennia, whispered in quiet moments, shouted through the chaos of our lives. It's a question that invites us to pause to look beneath the surface of our daily routines, beneath the layers of roles and identities we've gathered, to wonder, beyond the names and labels and stories, what lies at the core of who we are. We often think of ourselves as defined by what we do, by the jobs we hold or the titles we carry. I am a teacher, or I am a parent, or I am an artist. These words feel familiar, comforting even because they ground us in the world. But if your job changes tomorrow, or your roles shift, does who you are change as well? Or is there something deeper, something more constant beneath those shifting images? Consider your name your primary identifier in social settings. It's how we call to each other, how we recognize one another. But a name is just a sound, a collection of syllables. If someone forgot your name, would that erase your essence? You might still know yourself, even if others don't recognize you by the tag you've been given. Similarly, your body is often seen as the vessel of who you are, the tangible self we can perceive with our senses. But is your body you? Change your hair, your clothes, your physical fitness, and some will say you look different. But internally, many would say you remain the same person. When you peel back these external identifiers, the career, the name, the body, what remains? One way to approach this question is through the lens of consciousness. Who is the observer, the witness of your thoughts, emotions, and sensations? Every moment, your mind experiences a whirlwind of stories, images, and feelings. Yet, throughout all this activity, something seems to be quietly witnessing from within. This observing presence is often called the self beyond the self, the silent awareness beneath the noise. Philosophers have long debated whether this inner self truly exists or if it's just an illusion created by the brain. The Buddhist tradition, for example, teaches the concept of anatta, or non-self, suggesting that the idea of a permanent, unchanging self is a misconception. Instead, it proposes that what we call I is actually a constant flow, a river of changing experiences, thoughts, and sensations, none of which stay the same for long. Modern psychology and neuroscience shed some interesting light on this. Research shows that our sense of self is generated by networks of neurons communicating in the brain. The self emerges from this complex interaction. It isn't located in one specific spot, nor is it an immutable thing. It's a process, a dynamic pattern. This can feel unsettling because it challenges the notion that we are a fixed entity, but it can also be liberating because if the self is fluid, then there's space to change, to grow, to reinvent. Think about memories. We often say that who we are is shaped by our past, our childhood, our experiences, our relationships. Memories influence what we believe about ourselves, what we fear, what we desire. Yet memories themselves can be unreliable. They shift with time, influenced by moods and new experiences. Sometimes we even forget details or misremember events entirely. So if your self is tied to memory, and memory is malleable, then the self must be, at least in part, malleable too. Beyond memories, emotions play a huge role in our identity. When you say I am anxious or I am happy, you're identifying with an emotional state. But emotions come and go, rising and falling like the tide. Are you your anxiety, or are you the one who experiences anxiety? This distinction is subtle but profound. The more you can observe emotions without being fully consumed by them, the more you begin to separate the experience from the experiencer. Language contributes yet another layer. Our thoughts are often wrapped in words, and those words shape how we interpret ourselves and the world. The stories we tell about ourselves, our personal narratives, help us create a sense of continuity and meaning. But sometimes those stories become cages, limiting our possibilities. For example, if you tell yourself, I'm not good at math, that story influences how you perceive yourself and what you attempt. But who you are is not fixed by that thought or belief, it's just one narrative among many. If you begin to recognize how much of you is constructed by memory, emotion, language, culture, you might start to see yourself more as a storyteller who can choose which tales to believe and which to set aside. And what about the future? Part of our identity is wrapped up in who we hope to become. We set goals, imagine possibilities, and dream about the life ahead. This future-oriented self gives our life direction and purpose. But it also poses a challenge. If the self is always reaching for what is not yet here, are we ever fully present with who we are right now? Being present is a key insight from many contemplative traditions. To truly know yourself might mean to rest in the present moment, free from the past and future's pull, to experience simply the here and now, as it is, without judgment or expectation. In those moments, the stories thin out, and what remains is a direct experience of pure awareness that witnesses the play of thoughts and sensations without clinging to them. This awareness is sometimes described as the essence of I. It is not a thing but a field of knowing. It does not act or react as much as it observes and allows. You can try this for yourself by noticing your breath, the sensations of your body, the flow of your thoughts, and simply watching. You might discover a vast openness inside you, an unruffled space that is present through all your changes. Still, it's natural to want to define yourself, to have a sense of identity that feels safe and reliable. This is part of being human, the desire for belonging, for meaning, for a coherent story. Balance might be found in holding two truths at once, that you are a changing, fluid process, and that you can also find grounding in a deeper awareness that is always here, beneath the shifting contents of experience. Who am I, really? Perhaps the question invites us to look both outward and inward. Outward, to see how we connect with others in the world. Inward, to explore the nature of the observer within. Each answer we find is a reflection of where we are on this journey. If you find yourself caught in the eye of your thoughts, try stepping back to notice the thinker. If your sense of self feels too rigid, allow it to soften and stretch. Remember that all identities are temporary costumes we wear, and underneath them lies a freedom deeper than any label. As you continue exploring, hold curiosity as your guide. There is no rush to find a definitive answer to who am I, really, because the question itself is a doorway into a deeper relationship with yourself. It invites you to discover not just what you think you are, but the vast, mysterious presence that you have always been. In the end, maybe it's not about pinning down a fixed identity, but about embracing the mystery, the unfolding, the magnificent complexity of being alive. You are more than any story, more than any role. You are the awareness in which all stories arise and dissolve, a living question, an ever-changing mirror reflecting the dance of existence. So, who are you really? Perhaps you're the one asking the question, the one listening in the silence, the one aware of the vastness within and the infinite possibilities ahead. You are the journey, the mystery, the infinite unfolding moment by moment. And that perhaps is enough. The stranger in the mirror. There's a moment many people experience, though few talk about it openly. It's that surreal feeling when you catch your reflection or see a photo of yourself, and for a split second, the face looking back feels strangely unfamiliar, like a stranger is staring right back. This quiet disturbance, the sensation that you're not quite yourself, can be deeply unsettling. Tonight, we're exploring this experience, the stranger in the mirror. It begins with something simple. You glance up from your daily routine, catch your reflection in a window, a mirror, or even the glossy surface of a phone screen. Usually you'd recognize yourself without a second thought. But sometimes, something shifts. Maybe it's the way your eyes seem a little different, the line of your jaw sharper or softer, the expression vacant or strange, and in that instant, you might feel a flicker of detachment. Who is this person? Where did you go? This dissonance is more common than you might think. It's not just about seeing physical changes, although the mirror can be an unforgiving witness to the passage of time. It's about a deeper disconnect, a fracture between how we perceive ourselves on the inside and the image that reflects back. The stranger in the mirror represents an internal unfamiliarity, a sense that the person we have become is not quite the person we expected. Such experiences sometimes surface during moments of stress or emotional turmoil. Perhaps you're going through a difficult period, grappling with doubt, anxiety, or loss. In these moments, the self you identify with can feel unstable, slipping through your fingers like water, leaving behind only a hollow shell that feels foreign. In the mirror's reflection, you catch a glimpse of this fragility, this version of yourself that seems changed or even lost. But why does this happen? Why does the face we know so well suddenly appear so strange? One answer lies in psychology. Our sense of self is more fluid than most people realize. It isn't a fixed, solid construct, but a constantly evolving experience shaped by memories, emotions, social interactions, and internal narratives. When there's a disruption, whether caused by trauma, mental health challenges, or significant life changes, the threads that weave together this identity can momentarily unravel. Derealization and depersonalization are two psychological phenomena often linked to this experience. Derealization makes the world around you feel unreal, distant, or foggy, while depersonalization is a feeling of being detached from your own body or mind. People experiencing depersonalization might stare in the mirror and feel as though they are looking at someone else entirely. This is not simply optical illusion, it's a shift in perception, a profound internal estrangement. These episodes can be frightening. Imagine questioning the very core of who you are, staring at your reflection and acknowledging that something essential feels missing or altered. It challenges the comforting idea that I am me, that our identity is stable and reliable. The stranger in the mirror disrupts that. Yet, paradoxically, this unsettling realization can also open the door to deeper self-understanding. Recognizing that your identity is not immutable allows for growth. The person in the mirror is, in a sense, a composite of countless experiences, choices, and transformations. Sometimes, the stranger isn't truly a stranger at all, but a new aspect of yourself emerging. Consider how life's milestones shape our reflection. Childhood ends, adolescence transforms us, adulthood carries its own marks, and aging gradually changes the physical appearance we recognize. Each stage adds layers to our internal narrative, shifts our values, and even alters our emotional landscape. The face in the mirror subtly mirrors these internal shifts, but our mind's recognition often lags behind or resists. The discomfort can be especially acute when external changes don't align with internal identity. Picture someone recovering from illness, someone who has lost weight or gained it, a person whose hair has grayed or thinned, or someone adjusting to a new gender identity. The mirror may betray a version of them that does not yet mesh with who they feel themselves to be inside. This dissonance can provoke confusion, grief, or even relief. Artists and writers have long been fascinated by the notion of the stranger in the mirror. It's a powerful metaphor for the human condition, the tension between appearance and essence, surface and depth. Mirrors appear often in literature and art as portals not just to our outward likeness but to our hidden selves. Sometimes reflecting truth, other times revealing the mysterious or unsettling facets of identity. If you're listening to this and have ever felt that moment of estrangement, looked into the mirror and felt as if someone else was looking back, know that you are not alone. It's part of the complex journey of being human. This feeling can serve as a signpost, guiding you to explore, accept, and integrate those fragmented parts within. One way to navigate this experience is to practice mindful self-observation. Instead of recoiling from the stranger in the mirror, lean in gently. Observe without judgment. Notice the details, the subtle changes in expression, posture, or emotion. Ask yourself what stories these changes might be telling. Sometimes, this practice can soften the initial shock and begin to bridge the gap between unfamiliarity and acceptance. Another helpful perspective comes from neuroscience. Our brains maintain a mental map of our bodies, often called the body schema. This dynamic, constantly updated representation allows us to navigate the world confidently. However, when stress or neurological disruption occurs, this map can become distorted. The result can be a fleeting sense of unfamiliarity when seeing ourselves, as if our internal representation does not sync with the visual information from the mirror. Parents with young children know this phenomenon too. Small children often experience fleeting self-recognition challenges. Toddlers may not realize that the reflection in the mirror is themselves and can react with confusion or caution. As our sense of self crystallizes during early development, so does the ability to recognize me in the mirror. When that adult sense wavers, it can feel disorienting. Then there is the cultural layer of the mirror itself. Mirrors have long carried symbolic weight across civilizations. Sometimes they are thought to reveal hidden truths or hold mystical powers. In folklore and mythology, mirrors have been portals to alternate worlds, tools for divination, or traps for souls. This mystique adds a timeless quality to the experience of meeting the stranger in the mirror, a reminder that reflections are never quite as straightforward as they seem. Technology adds another twist. In our hyper-connected, image-saturated age, we see ourselves through countless digital lenses, photographs, selfies, video chats, filters, and more. These mediated reflections often distort reality, playing tricks with light, angle, and context. It's easy to mistake these altered images for an authentic representation, deepening the disconnect. Sometimes the stranger in the mirror is not just literal, but digital and edited, curated figure different from the person beneath the surface. Despite the strangeness, there's comfort to be found in remembering that identity is a journey rather than a fixed destination. The mirror shows one solitary moment, a still frame in a continuous flow of change. Sometimes the stranger we see is the version of ourselves we are becoming, or perhaps we're all along, waiting patiently beneath the surface. Facing the stranger in the mirror can be a call to embrace vulnerability. It invites us to question assumptions about who we should be, to give ourselves permission to evolve, to accept imperfection and uncertainty. When we stop resisting these shifts, the reflection can become less alien and more familiar, even welcoming. If you ever find yourself unsettled by the reflection in the mirror, consider it an opportunity rather than a threat. Ask who this stranger might be. What might they teach you about hidden fears, hopes, or desires? Could this unfamiliar face be a mirror not just of loss, but of possibility? The stranger in the mirror is a quiet reminder. Beneath the surface of appearance, within the depths of identity, lies a complex, ever-changing human story. And in that story, you are both the stranger and the witness, the visitor and the home. So tonight, if you catch your reflection and see something unexpected, try to meet that gaze without fear. Lean into the mystery and know that in the dance between stranger and self, you may find a profound connection greater than the sum of appearances. Because sometimes, to truly see yourself, you have to meet the stranger in the mirror. The unreliable memory. Memory is one of the most fascinating and complex features of the human mind. It's the thread that connects our past to our present, allowing us to learn, grow, and build a sense of self. Yet, despite its critical role, memory is not the flawless recording many believe it to be. In fact, memory is surprisingly unreliable. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of the unreliable memory, what it means, why it happens, and the profound implications it has on our understanding of ourselves and the world. When you think about memory, you might imagine a perfect mental archive storing every moment, every detail. But memory does not work like a video camera, replaying events with perfect clarity. Instead, it's more like a constantly edited story, influenced by our emotions, beliefs, and even the passage of time. One of the fundamental reasons memory is unreliable is because of the way it is formed. Memory is not a single process. It involves encoding, storage, and retrieval, each one of which can be flawed or influenced by external and internal factors. Encoding is the first step, the process where information is transformed into a memory trace. How well we encode information depends on factors such as attention, emotional state, and even expectations. If you're distracted or stressed, you might not encode details of an event accurately. For example, eyewitnesses to a crime might miss crucial details because their brains prioritize threat-related information over peripheral details. Next comes storage, the phase where memories are maintained over time. Contrary to popular belief, memories are not stored in a fixed, unchanging state. Instead, every time we recall a memory, we reconstruct it, and this reconstruction can alter the memory itself. Memory is dynamic, constantly rewritten and reshaped. Then there is retrieval, the process of bringing a stored memory back into conscious awareness. Here is where much of the unreliability creeps in. Retrieval is influenced by cues, context, and even our current emotional state. Sometimes, our brains fill in gaps with fabrications or details borrowed from other memories, leading to distortions or false memories. False memories illustrate the unreliability of memory vividly. Researchers have demonstrated that people can be led to remember events that never happened. Through suggestion or misinformation, individuals can create detailed mental images of invented events, even though they never experienced them. This shows how malleable memory is, and how it can be manipulated under certain circumstances. Our memories are also influenced by schemas, mental frameworks developed from past experiences. Schemas help us make sense of new information by fitting it into existing knowledge. However, this can lead to errors when we unconsciously alter memories to align with what should have happened or what fits our worldview. For example, you might recall a conversation differently based on what you believed or expected from the person involved. Emotions play a significant role in memory reliability as well. Highly emotional experiences tend to be remembered more vividly, but that doesn't guarantee accuracy. Intense emotions like fear or trauma can enhance memory for central details while impairing the recall of peripheral details. Moreover, ongoing emotional states can color how we remember past events, leading to bias. Another fascinating aspect is the phenomenon of memory decay. Over time, memories tend to fade, especially if they are not rehearsed or revisited. But it's not just fading can also distort. Vague recollections may become increasingly generalized or schematic, losing the rich detail they once had. Sleep also plays a role in memory reliability. During certain stages of sleep, the brain processes and consolidates memories, strengthening some and weakening others. Interruptions to normal sleep patterns can impair this process, making memories more fragile or fragmented. Interestingly, memory is a social construct too. Sharing stories with others and discussing memories can strengthen or even modify them. Sometimes group discussions can lead to collective memories that blend individual recollections, potentially introducing errors or consensus-based distortions. The legal system, of course, has been profoundly affected by our understanding of unreliable memory. Eyewitness testimony, once considered irrefutable evidence, now faces significant scrutiny. Studies reveal that memory distortion and false memories can lead to wrongful convictions. This has led to changes in how law enforcement and courts handle eyewitness reports and interrogation methods. On a more personal level, the unreliability of memory reminds us to approach our own memories with humility and curiosity. Our recollections of childhood, relationships, and defining moments are crafted over years, influenced by countless subtle factors. Understanding this can help reduce conflicts born from differing accounts and foster empathy. Memory's unreliability also holds a deep philosophical significance. If our sense of self is built in part on memories, what does it mean if those memories are malleable? Does this suggest our identity is more fluid than fixed? These questions invite us to consider how much our very reality is shaped by the fragile and shifting nature of memory. Scientific advancements continue to reveal more about how our memories work and fail. Neuroimaging has uncovered brain regions involved in memory, such as the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, shedding light on how memories are formed, stored, and altered. Psychologists and cognitive scientists work to develop techniques to improve memory accuracy and reduce distortion. Meanwhile, innovations in technology have introduced new ways to externalize memory. Smartphones, cloud storage, and digital diaries serve as external repositories, reducing reliance on our internal memory. Yet this also raises questions about how these tools shape what and how we remember. Ultimately, embracing the unreliability of memory is not about doubting everything we remember. Instead, it's about recognizing the flexible, evolving nature of our minds. It invites us to approach our memories with a balance of trust and skepticism, appreciating their beauty and mystery, while being mindful of their limitations. In the quiet moments of reflection, when memories arise seemingly from nowhere, remember, memory is a creative act, a dance between the past and present. It is not a perfect mirror but a prism, bending and coloring the light of our experiences into the unique tapestries that make up who we are. Life is but a dream. This simple phrase holds a profound truth, one that has echoed through centuries, whispered in ancient temples, pondered by philosophers, and felt deeply in the quiet moments of our own lives. It invites us to consider the nature of our existence, the fleetingness of time, and the mysterious dance between reality and illusion. Imagine waking each day, stepping out into the world, engaging with people, events, and emotions, only to realize that everything you experience might be a part of a vast dream. What if the life you live, with all its joys and sorrows, triumphs and failures, is more ephemeral than you think? What if beneath the surface of what we call reality lies a deeper, boundless realm, one woven of thoughts, perceptions, and consciousness itself? Throughout history, many cultures have entertained the notion that life is a dream. In ancient China, the Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi shared a famous story about dreaming he was a butterfly, fluttering about freely, unaware that he was actually Zhuangzi. When he awoke, he wondered, was he a man dreaming he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming he was a man? This tale captures the fluidity of identity and the thin veil separating waking life from dreaming. The idea implies a universe much more fluid and interconnected than our daily experience suggests. Our senses, powerful as they are present only a filtered version of reality. What we see, hear, and feel is translated by our minds into an ongoing narrative, a story we tell ourselves about who we are and where we stand in the world. Yet that narrative is as malleable as a dream, shifting with our mood, attention, and perspective. Modern science offers interesting parallels. Quantum physics reveals a world where particles exist in states of possibility until observed, where reality at the smallest scale seems less concrete and more like a tapestry woven from probabilities. Some interpretations even suggest that consciousness plays a key role in shaping what we call reality. If that's true, then perhaps life's dreamlike qualities are not just metaphorical, but built into the fabric of existence itself. When we say life is but a dream, we also hint at impermanence. Like a dream that fades upon waking, life's moments pass swiftly. Time, with its relentless forward march, carries us along from one experience to the next. Memories may linger, but even they change in details, colored by emotions and later reflections. Recognizing the dreamlike nature of life invites a different way of relating to time, not as a to-do list of tasks and deadlines, but as a flowing river of moments to be fully lived, each unique and unrepeatable. This perspective can bring a surprising sense of peace when the weight of the world presses on us. When worries about the future or regrets about the past constrict our breath, remembering that life is but a dream reminds us that these struggles, too, are transient. They are not permanent fixtures, but passing clouds on a vast sky of awareness. Moreover, viewing life as a dream encourages us to awaken within it. Instead of being swept along unconsciously by habits, fears, and societal demands, we can become lucid dreamers, aware participants in the unfolding mystery. Lucid dreaming is not just a sleep phenomenon, but a metaphor for a state of heightened consciousness and presence. In this state, we recognize the illusory nature of appearances, and yet engage fully, creatively, and compassionately. Think about how this mindset changes your relationship with yourself and others. When you understand life as a shared dream, you begin to see the threads that connect us all. Differences blur, judgments soften, and empathy deepens. You become more forgiving of mistakes, both yours and others. You begin to appreciate the play of joy and sorrow, success and failure, as part of the grand choreography of experience. The dream metaphor also invites curiosity. Dreams are often strange, surreal, and rich with symbolism. If life is a dream, then it's filled with mysteries waiting to be explored. Every challenge might hold a lesson, every encounter a hidden meaning. Instead of resisting the unknown, we can embrace it with wonder, knowing that clarity often arises from uncertainty. Yet, this perspective does not diminish the significance of our choices or actions. Even in dreams, what we do matters within the dream's context. Our intentions ripple outward, influencing not only ourselves but the dream world we inhabit. Recognizing the dreamlike nature of life emphasizes responsibility. We are co-creators of our experience. This brings us to the spiritual dimension of the life is but a dream teaching. Many mystical traditions describe the ultimate reality as an unchanging, eternal state of pure consciousness or bliss. Our waking life, with its ups and downs, illusions and attachments, is seen as a temporary play of forms, like waves on an ocean that remains calm and vast beneath. The goal, then, is to awaken from the dream fully, to realize our true nature beyond the fleeting scenes that pass before our eyes. Meditation and mindfulness practices offer practical ways to glimpse this awakening. By turning attention inward, observing thoughts and sensations without attachment, one begins to discern the underlying stillness and clarity beneath the mental noise. Moments of silence and presence open a doorway to a deeper understanding of life's dreamlike quality. In daily life, this understanding need not be abstract or distant. It can be a source of joy and inspiration. Every breath you take is a fresh moment in the dream. Every smile exchanged, every act of kindness contributes to its beauty and meaning. You become both the dreamer and the dream, a paradox that speaks to the mystery and magic of existence itself. So how can you bring the wisdom of life is but a dream into your own experience? Start by noticing the transient nature of your thoughts and feelings. Watch how moments arise and dissolve on the canvas of your awareness. When stress or fear grips you, remind yourself gently that nothing lasts forever. Feelings ebb and flow like waves. Allow yourself space to dream consciously, to imagine, to create, to play. Realize that your imagination is a powerful tool, shaping not only your inner world but your outer reality. When you dream big, align with kindness, and act with intention, you participate in the unfolding miracle of life. Remember, too, that waking up from the dream doesn't mean escaping life or becoming detached. It means engaging more deeply, with clarity and compassion. It means recognizing that you are part of a vast interconnected whole, where boundaries between self and other soften and dissolve. In the end, the phrase life is but a dream is an invitation to explore, to awaken, to embrace mystery, and to love fully. It carries the echo of countless seekers who have wandered this path before, and the hope that we all may find peace within the shifting scenes of our own awakening story. The ever-changing self. There is a profound truth at the heart of our existence. We are never truly the same person from one moment to the next. The self, the very essence of who we are, is not a fixed entity, but a fluid, ever-changing phenomenon. This reality can be both unsettling and liberating. It challenges our sense of permanence while opening the door to continuous growth and renewal. Tonight, let us explore the fascinating journey of the ever-changing self. From the moment we are born, change begins. Our bodies grow, our minds develop, and our experiences shape us in countless ways. Yet beneath this outward transformation, there is an inner world undergoing constant evolution. Thoughts arise and fade, emotions ebb and flow, and memories reshape our understanding of ourselves. The self is not a static object to be held firmly in place. It is a flowing river, perpetually moving and transforming. Consider your own life. Who were you just a year ago? Maybe you had different beliefs or different dreams. Perhaps your relationships looked different, or your daily habits were not what they are now. In fact, think back even further to 5, 10, or 20 years ago. The person you were then may feel almost like a stranger today. This is because the self is constructed from an ongoing narrative, a story that we edit and rewrite with each passing day. Yet, if we are constantly changing, how can we say there is a self at all? This question has intrigued philosophers, scientists, and spiritual teachers throughout history. One answer is that the self is not a singular, unchanging core, but a continuous process. Like a melody played on a piano, the notes shift, but the tune persists. The self is a dynamic pattern made up of habits, memories, beliefs, and desires, all interacting in complex ways. Neurologically, the brain itself displays remarkable plasticity. Neural connections form and dissolve in response to what we learn and experience. This biological fact underpins the very possibility of change in personality, preferences, and perspectives. Our brains adapt to new information and challenges, rewiring themselves so that we may become different versions of ourselves over time. The self, then, is both a product and a producer of change. Identity, too, is layered and multifaceted. We often think of ourselves in terms of roles: parent, friend, artist, or student. Each role carries a set of expectations, behaviors, and emotions that influence how we see ourselves and how others perceive us. These roles may shift as life circumstances evolve. A teacher may become a learner. A traveler may settle into a new home. A skeptic may become a believer. The self is a mosaic of these identities, some enduring, others temporary. Emotions play a crucial role in the ongoing transformation of self. Joy, sorrow, anger, fear, all these feelings color our inner experience and guide our decisions. Our emotional responses can reveal patterns and preferences, yet they are also subject to change. As we grow in awareness, we might find old fears dissipating, new passions arising. Through emotional evolution, our relationship with ourselves deepens and becomes more nuanced. Memory serves as a bridge between past and present selves. It weaves a narrative fabric that helps us understand continuity in our lives. But memories are not perfect recordings. They are reconstructed each time we recall them, influenced by our current state of mind. This malleability means that the story of who we are can shift, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Revisiting old memories with fresh eyes can transform their meaning, and consequently our sense of self. Sometimes change in the self is gradual and almost imperceptible. Other times, it occurs in leaps, sudden awakenings, crises, or breakthroughs. Difficult experiences like loss or trauma can catalyze profound shifts in how we see ourselves in the world. Similarly, moments of joy and insight can open new paths, expanding the boundaries of who we thought we were. Both the trials and triumphs of life serve as catalysts for the evolving self. Social contexts also influence the self's transformation. We are shaped by relationships, culture, and community. The feedback we receive from others can affirm or challenge our self-perceptions. Through interaction, we negotiate our identities, sometimes conforming, other times resisting. Social roles and expectations may offer stability or pressure, but ultimately, the self navigates these external forces, choosing which influences to integrate and which to set aside. Reflection and self-awareness amplify our capacity for change. When we pause to observe our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with curiosity rather than judgment, we open the door to intentional transformation. Practices such as meditation, journaling, or therapy can cultivate this mindful attention. With heightened awareness, we can recognize patterns that no longer serve us and gently guide ourselves toward new ways of being. It is worth noting that the ever-changing self does not imply instability or chaos. Rather, it is a testament to resilience and adaptability. The self maintains coherence not through a rigid sameness, but through a continuity of experience and purpose. This ongoing process allows for integration of past selves with present growth and future aspirations. The dance of change creates a richer, fuller identity, capable of embracing complexity and paradox. From a spiritual perspective, many traditions highlight the impermanent nature of the self. Buddhism, for example, teaches that attachment to a fixed identity is a source of suffering. By recognizing the transient nature of the self, one can cultivate liberation and peace. This does not mean dissolving into nothingness, but rather embracing the flow of life without clinging to any particular form. The self becomes an open space, transforming with each breath, each moment. In literature and art, the theme of transformation is a constant thread. Characters evolve, narratives unfold with shifting perspectives, and creativity itself exemplifies the unfolding self. Artists and writers often describe the process of creation as a journey of self-discovery and reinvention. Through expression, they explore inner landscapes and invite others to witness the ongoing story of becoming. The digital age adds a new dimension to our understanding of selfhood. Online identities allow us to experiment with different facets of personality, sometimes presenting curated versions of ourselves. Social media can both reinforce and disrupt our narratives. In virtual spaces, we may find new communities and new stories that influence our evolving sense of self. The interplay between real and virtual selves invites fresh questions about authenticity and change. The ever-changing self is also reflected in changing values and beliefs. What once seemed essential may become obsolete, while new priorities emerge. Philosophical and moral perspectives can shift through exposure to new ideas, experiences, and cultures. This intellectual evolution shapes how we relate to ourselves and others, often deepening empathy and expanding understanding. Importantly, the process of self-change is not about erasing the past or rejecting who we were. Instead, it is about weaving our history into a coherent tapestry that honors former selves while embracing growth. Each phase contributes to the richness of the whole. This integrative approach fosters self-compassion and resilience, allowing us to hold multiple layers of identity without fracture. Our relationships with others mirror our inner transformations. As we change, so too do our connections. Friendships may deepen, shift, or dissolve. New bonds form that reflect our current self and aspirations. The interplay between inner change and outer relationships is dynamic and ongoing. Others can challenge us, support us, or inspire new directions in our selfhood. The concept of the ever-changing self invites us to release rigid labels and fixed narratives. It asks us to embrace uncertainty, complexity, and mystery. In letting go of the need to know ourselves once and for all, we open to a more fluid and expansive experience of being. This openness allows creativity, spontaneity, and authenticity to flourish. In moments of stillness, when the mind quiets and we tune into the present, the changing self reveals itself in subtle ways. We sense the movement beneath the surface, the gentle shifts in mood, perception, and awareness. These moments remind us that change is not only external but deeply internal and sacred. The self is alive, breathing, and unfolding in every instant. Ultimately, the ever-changing self is a journey without a final destination. It is an ongoing process of becoming, informed by past, present, and future. This journey invites curiosity rather than certainty, exploration rather than finality. Each step offers the possibility of rediscovery and renewal, a chance to meet ourselves anew. Thoughts not your own. There are moments in life when we feel as though the thoughts running through our minds aren't truly ours. They arrive unbidden, sometimes overwhelming, carrying a weight that feels foreign and intrusive. These moments challenge the very notion of self, who we are, and where our ideas truly originate. What if the thoughts that shape our mood, decisions, and sense of identity are not always generated by our conscious mind? What does it mean when the mind seems to play host to ideas beyond our control? The mind, an intricate labyrinth of neurons and synapses, continuously processes a ceaseless stream of information. Beneath the surface of conscious awareness lies a vast expanse where subconscious thoughts arise, fishing fragments from memories, emotions, and external inputs. These fragments can coalesce unexpectedly into ideas or mental images we might mistake as our own deliberate creations. Yet their origin lies in a deeper, less accessible part of the mind. Have you ever experienced a thought that startled you, as though it came from somewhere outside yourself? A sudden fear, a fleeting image, or a voice of doubt that disrupts your peace. Such moments evoke questions about control and ownership of our inner experience. Are we truly the masters of our minds, or do we merely observe thoughts streaming by in the theater of consciousness? The phenomenon of thoughts not your own is far more common than one might think. Intrusive thoughts, for instance, are unwelcome ideas or impulses that enter the mind, often accompanied by distress. They slip in without invitation, disrupting focus and peace. People living with anxiety or obsessive-compulsive disorder frequently describe these as alien, foreign entities invading their mental space. Yet everyone experiences intrusive thoughts from time to time, highlighting a fundamental aspect of how minds work. But intrusive thoughts represent just one facet of the experience. Sometimes, thoughts emerge that feel inspired, as if sparked by an outside source. Artists, writers, and thinkers have long described moments of sudden insight as gifts, flashes of brilliance arriving fully formed. These thoughts seem to come from elsewhere, a collective unconscious, a muse, or a realm beyond ordinary perception. They are not forced or unwanted, but rather welcomed guides that shape creativity and understanding. This duality, the unwelcome versus the inspired, illustrates the paradox of inner experience. Our minds reside at the intersection of self and other, the personal and the shared. Neuroscience is beginning to shed light on these intricate processes. Studies indicate that what we identify as self-generated thought involves a network of brain regions communicating in complex patterns. However, these networks are influenced not only by internal states but also by external stimuli, memories, and social connections. Consider the concept of mirror neurons, brain cells that activate not only when we perform an action but also when we observe others doing the same. These neurons suggest a biological basis for empathy and social learning, blurring the boundaries between self and other. Thoughts and feelings, then, may not be isolated within a personal mind, but rather woven from the fabric of shared experience. This interconnectedness means that some thoughts originate in relationships, cultural narratives, or collective history. When a phrase or viewpoint suddenly strikes you as your own, it may carry echoes of conversations, books, or media absorbed over time. The mind is a sponge, soaking up information and later folding it back into consciousness as novel ideas. Distinguishing between original creation and absorbed influence becomes difficult, and perhaps the distinction itself is less meaningful than we suppose. In exploring the experience of foreign thoughts, psychology also encounters the phenomenon of dissociation. In some cases, individuals report feeling detached from their thoughts, as though observing them from a distance or recognizing them as not belonging. Dissociative disorders, though rare, offer insight into how the mind can compartmentalize thoughts, creating internal divisions that interfere with the sense of self. Moreover, conditions such as schizophrenia involve experiences of thoughts being inserted, controlled, or broadcast by external forces. While these are symptoms of mental illness, they reveal the fragile nature of our perceived mental autonomy. The mind is a complex system vulnerable to disruptions that challenge the unity of identity and control over thought. Yet, outside of pathology, many spiritual traditions and philosophies have long acknowledged the existence of thoughts beyond the individual self. Meditation practices encourage observers to notice thoughts arising and passing without attachment, recognizing that thoughts flow through the mind rather than define it. Some schools teach that true selfhood is not located in transient mental content, but in a deeper, silent awareness beneath the chatter. This awareness allows a person to recognize foreign thoughts as passing phenomena, not commands or truths. By cultivating this perspective, individuals can reduce distress caused by intrusive or disturbing ideas, reclaiming a sense of agency and calm. In this way, acknowledging thoughts not as my own, but as experiences of consciousness transforms the relationship with the inner world. On another level, the concept of thoughts not your own invites reflection on free will itself. If ideas arise spontaneously, influenced by unseen forces such as biology, environment, and culture, how much control do we truly have? Are we authors of our mental life, or editors of pre-existing drafts? This question has occupied philosophers from Descartes to modern neuroscientists. Some propose that the experience of volition, the feeling of choosing a thought, is a constructed narrative that serves social and psychological functions. The mind weaves a story of control to create coherence and responsibility. Though this story might not capture the full complexity of mental processes, it remains essential for functioning in society. Understanding the phenomenon of foreign thoughts also sheds light on empathy and social connection. Recognizing that minds are porous and influenced by others fosters humility and compassion. It helps us appreciate the shared nature of human experience, breaking down isolation and loneliness. In conversations, reading, or art, the blending of others' thoughts with our own enriches our inner world. In everyday life, becoming aware of thoughts that feel alien can be unsettling but also enlightening. It reminds us that the mind is a dynamic process, not a fixed entity. Developing mindful awareness of these moments enhances emotional regulation and self-understanding. It encourages us to be gentle with ourselves amid the unpredictable flow of mental content. Ultimately, the experience of thoughts not your own calls us to explore the mystery of consciousness. It invites curiosity about the invisible currents shaping our inner life and challenges assumptions about identity and autonomy. In this exploration lies the potential for deeper self-knowledge, creative insight, and peace. So next time you notice a thought that feels strange or intrusive, pause. Observe it without judgment. Consider its possible origins: biological, cultural, relational, or even spiritual. Allow space for both acceptance and inquiry. In recognizing that the mind is a shared space, a vessel of many voices, you may find freedom from rigid self-identification and a broader sense of belonging within the vast landscape of human thought. The mind is both a mirror and a mosaic. It reflects our unique perspective but is composed of countless pieces shaped by experience and interaction. Embracing this complexity enriches our understanding of ourselves and others, opening doors to empathy, creativity, and resilience. Thoughts not your own are reminders of the mysterious workings beneath our conscious gaze. They challenge us to reconsider what it means to think, to create, and to be. In surrendering rigid ownership of every idea, we discover a more fluid, expansive self, one that flows with the endless river of consciousness, connected to all yet uniquely alive. Imagined realities. Imagine a world where the lines between what is real and what is imagined blur into a seamless tapestry, where the boundaries that define our existence start to twist and fold, revealing layers of reality previously unseen. This is the realm of imagined realities, a concept that has fascinated philosophers, scientists, and storytellers alike for centuries. Today, we journey together through this fascinating landscape, exploring the nature of imagined realities, their impact on our perception, and the subtle ways they shape our experience of the world. From the earliest stories told around campfires to the immersive virtual worlds of today, humanity has always sought to transcend the confines of immediate reality. Our minds, a fertile ground for dreams, fantasies, and inventions, craft entire universes from thin air. These imagined realities, though intangible, hold immense power. They influence our beliefs, decisions, and even the course of history. Consider for a moment the stories and myths that underpin entire cultures. They are imagined constructs, yet they dictate values, inspire actions, and bind communities together. But what exactly is an imagined reality? At its core, it is a mental creation, an alternate world that exists predominantly within the mind, supported by narratives, symbols, and shared understanding. Unlike physical realities, these worlds have no measurable presence outside consciousness, yet they can feel as vivid and authoritative as the concrete sensory experiences we associate with the real world. This duality raises intriguing questions about the nature of reality itself. If a reality is experienced, felt, and acted upon, to what extent must it be grounded in physical substances to be considered real? Philosophers have long grappled with this idea. René Descartes famously questioned the certainty of the external world, proposing that our senses could be deceived, and that only our thoughts were undeniably real. More contemporary thinkers explore simulation hypotheses, the notion that our seemingly tangible universe might itself be a constructed reality, perhaps akin to a complex computer simulation. While such hypotheses remain speculative, they underscore the fragile and subjective nature of what we call reality. In parallel, psychological research uncovers how our brains create personal realities shaped by perception, memory, and expectation. Each individual experiences the world through unique filters, crafting an internal representation that can diverge significantly from objective measures. These internal realities are not merely passive reflections but active constructions, continuously edited and reinterpreted. Dreams, nightmares, and daydreams offer vivid examples of how imagined realities intermingle with waking consciousness, influencing emotions and behavior. Technology expands the horizon of imagined realities even further. Virtual and augmented reality platforms enable us to step into alternate worlds, crafted with pixel precision yet capable of triggering genuine emotional responses. Gaming environments invite players to adopt new identities, live out heroic sagas, or explore fantastical realms. Social media and digital narratives blur the line between actual events and curated imaginations, sometimes complicating our grasp on factual truth. Here, the distinction between imagined and physical realities becomes increasingly porous. On a societal scale, collective imagined realities shape politics, religion, and economics. Nations are, in many ways, shared imaginations, constructs upheld by agreement, symbols, and rituals. Currency itself holds value only because we collectively imagine that it does. Laws, rights, and social contracts all rest upon structured beliefs about what is real, just, and possible. In this sense, imagined realities are foundational to civilization, providing frameworks within which human cooperation and progress occur. Yet, imagined realities can also be sources of conflict and confusion. When differing perceptions or narratives clash, society experiences tension and upheaval. Disinformation, conspiracy theories, and polarized beliefs often arise from competing imagined worlds, each compelling in its own right yet incompatible with others. Navigating these complexities requires awareness of the fluid nature of reality and a willingness to question and refine our own mental landscapes. This does not diminish the significance of imagined realities. Rather, it highlights their dynamic role in human life. They are not mere illusions, but vibrant domains where creativity, hope, fear, and meaning converge. Through art, literature, and myth-making, we continually reshape imagined realities, offering new visions of what could be. These imaginings inspire scientific discovery, social reform, and personal growth, propelling us forward. In understanding imagined realities, we gain insight into the profound capacity of the human mind, not only to interpret the world but to invent it anew. The stories we tell ourselves and others become the architecture of our lives, structuring experience in ways both subtle and dramatic. By embracing the interplay between imagined and physical realities, we open doors to empathy, innovation, and transformation. As you drift through these reflections, consider the landscapes your mind may travel in waking life and in dreams. Notice how your own imagined realities influence your feelings, choices, and sense of identity. Whether a simple daydream or a complex narrative, these inner worlds are part of the ever-evolving mosaic of your existence. The observer behind your eyes. There is a quiet presence inside your mind, an ever-watchful observer that witnesses every passing thought, every feeling, every sensation, without interruption. This presence is neither the thoughts themselves, nor the emotions that swirl around you, but something deeper, something more fundamental. It is the observer behind your eyes. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting quietly in a room. Your eyes are closed. You are aware of the sounds around you, the faint hum of distant traffic, the gentle rustle of leaves outside the window. You notice the rhythm of your breath, slow and steady. There is a voice inside your head, the inner narrator, commenting on what is happening, reminding you of errands you must run, or replaying conversations from the day. Yet despite all this activity, there is something else present. That which is aware of these thoughts, that which notices the rising and falling of your breath, that which perceives the world in silence. This is the observer behind your eyes. This observer is not a thing you can hold, or a character you can name. It has no shape or form. It is simply the awareness that notices experience, You cannot point to it in the brain or capture it on a screen, and yet it is always there. Like a calm lake beneath ripples of thought, this awareness remains steady amidst the ever-changing flow of mental activity. Most people live in a state of unconscious identification with their thoughts and emotions. When a thought appears, "I am worried about tomorrow," we tend to believe it as true. When a feeling arises, anger, sadness, joy, we feel consumed by it, as if it defines us. But the observer behind your eyes offers another perspective. It reminds you that these experiences are happening within awareness, but are not the essence of who you are. By simply noticing this observer, you begin to create a space between your experience and your identity. This space is a doorway to peace. Instead of becoming lost in a storm of thoughts and feelings, you recognize that you are the one who perceives that storm. You are the silence behind the noise. This idea is ancient and fundamental. It appears in many spiritual and philosophical traditions under different names. Some call it pure consciousness, the self, the witness, or simply awareness. Regardless of the term, the experience is consistent, a deep, unfading presence that observes without judgment, without attachment, and without effort. When you cultivate awareness of the observer, your relationship with your mind shifts. Rather than being pulled from one thought to the next like a leaf on the wind, you anchor yourself in a steady center. This center is the observer. It is always present, constant, and reliable. No thought or emotion can erase it or diminish it. In meditation practice, this observer is often called the witness or the inner self. Meditation guides you inward, encouraging you to turn your attention away from external distractions and into the observing presence within. Sitting quietly, focusing on the breath, noticing sensations, you begin to recognize that the observer is watching all of this unfold. At first, this can feel subtle or even elusive. The mind habitually jumps from one thought to another, but with gentle persistence, the observer reveals itself more clearly. You learn to distinguish between the content of consciousness, the thoughts, images, sensations, and the conscious field itself, the awareness that hosts these contents. This distinction is liberating. It teaches us that we are not our thoughts, nor are we our emotions. We are the consciousness in which these arise. The observer is the silent background that supports the play of life on the stage of the mind. How does this awareness affect daily living? When you carry this observer within your experience, you gain emotional resilience. Difficult feelings no longer feel overwhelming because you recognize them as waves passing through your awareness, not permanent states of being. Stress and anxiety soften because you see them as energy moving through the observer's field, not defining your essence. Moreover, this observer allows greater clarity and insight. When faced with a challenge or decision, stepping back into awareness helps you discern what is happening beneath the surface of thought. It fosters a spaciousness from which intuitive understanding can arise. You may wonder, if this observer is always present, why do we forget it so often? The answer lies in our conditioning and habits. From childhood onward, we are taught to identify with the mind's narrative, the story we tell ourselves about who we are. Social roles, memories, ambitions, all these shape a self-image that appears solid and real. However, awareness is not overshadowed by this story. It is merely obscured. Like the sky hidden by clouds, the observer is always there, waiting for the cloud cover of thought and emotion to clear. Practices such as mindfulness meditation, self-inquiry, and contemplative reflection help dissolve these clouds. Self-inquiry, in particular, encourages the question, who is aware of this thought? By tracing the source of awareness back to itself, you pierce the illusion that you are your mind. In this inquiry, the observer shines forth as the true self. This recognition can be transformative. It offers a sense of freedom from suffering because suffering often arises from identification with a limited, constructed self. The observer is unrestricted, unlimited, and untouched by the ups and downs of life. One beautiful metaphor likens the observer to the sky, and the mind's contents to weather phenomena, clouds, rain, storms, or sunshine. No matter how intense the weather, the sky remains vast and open. Similarly, the observer does not cling to any thought or feeling. It simply watches with equanimity. This perspective does not mean detachment in the sense of indifference. Rather, it opens the heart through clarity. Being aware of the observer allows you to experience life more fully, with presence and compassion. Emotions can be felt and expressed without losing yourself in them. In relationships, this observer helps you listen more deeply. When a loved one speaks, the observer watches the reactions that arise within you without judgment. This gives room for genuine understanding and empathy, because you are not reacting unconsciously but responding from awareness. On a broader scale, cultivating this inner observer connects you to the mystery of consciousness itself. It invites you to explore the nature of reality beyond appearances. Questions emerge naturally. What is awareness? Where does the observer reside? Is it separate from the body and mind, or is it the essence of all? Science has begun to explore these questions through the study of consciousness, but the observer remains difficult to define or pin down. It is not simply brain activity, because brain activity can be observed by awareness itself. The observer is the subject in which all experience occurs. One intriguing aspect of the observer is its timelessness. While thoughts and sensations arise and fade, the observer remains unchanged. It is present in every moment, from birth to now. This perpetuity hints at a deeper dimension of self that transcends physical existence. Many spiritual teachings suggest that discovering this observer is the key to awakening the end of suffering and the realization of true freedom. Awakening is not something new to be gained, but a remembering of what you always were, the eternal observer behind the eyes. In practical terms, reconnecting with this observer can be as simple as pausing throughout the day to notice. When walking, bring attention to the feeling of your feet touching the ground. When feeling overwhelmed, take a breath and locate the observing presence that is aware of your emotion but is not swallowed by it. Over time, these small moments of awareness accumulate, transforming your experience of life from frantic and reactive to calm and responsive. The observer becomes an anchor, a refuge, a friend. You may also notice a subtle shift in your sense of self. Instead of a fixed identity, you experience a flowing presence that holds all things without judgment. Life becomes less about achieving or avoiding and more about witnessing and being. The observer behind your eyes is always with you, patiently waiting for your recognition. It is the quiet flame of consciousness illuminating the theater of your mind. When you learn to rest in this presence, you discover a depth of peace and understanding beyond words. Living on autopilot. There is something quietly unsettling about the idea of living on autopilot. We go through our days following routines, habits, and patterns so ingrained that we barely register what is happening around us. We wake up, brush our teeth, get dressed, eat breakfast, maybe scroll through our phones, head out or log into work, and then repeat. The familiar rhythms shape our existence, providing comfort and predictability. Yet they can also create a dull haze that keeps us from fully experiencing life. Living on autopilot means drifting through the hours and moments as though on a predetermined path, no conscious choice involved. It is a state where actions and reactions become automatic, driven more by habit than intention. On some level, this can be helpful. It saves mental energy, allowing us to focus on complex tasks or just to rest. But when it takes over, it can result in feelings of disconnection, unreality, and even dissatisfaction. Our brains are wired to seek efficiency. This is why so much of what we do every day becomes automatic. From walking to typing, driving a familiar route, or making your morning coffee, many behaviors become muscle memory. When you operate on autopilot, your mind processes information with minimal conscious thought. This frees us up to multitask or daydream. Yet this same efficiency can dull our awareness of ourselves in the world. Living on autopilot diminishes our capacity to be present. Presence means fully experiencing the here and now, the sights, sounds, emotions, and sensations. Without presence, life becomes a series of checkboxes, just getting through tasks rather than appreciating experiences. Imagine eating a meal while distracted. Before you know it, the plate is empty, but you hardly recall the taste. The same goes for conversations, walks, or moments of quiet. They become background noise in a busy mind. There is a term psychologists use called mindlessness, which means acting without conscious awareness of what we're doing or feeling. Mindlessness happens easily when we repeat familiar actions or get caught in routine. It's a kind of mental autopilot where your brain filters out much of the sensory input because it assumes it knows what's coming next. This can protect you from sensory overload but also makes life less vivid. Why do we fall into autopilot living? One reason is stress and overwhelm. Our modern world bombards us with information, demands, and distractions. When overloaded, the brain switches into survival mode, prioritizing efficiency over mindfulness. Another reason is comfort. Routines provide stability and predictability, reducing anxiety. People often seek the ease of autopilot to avoid uncomfortable feelings or decisions. Technology also plays a role in pushing us toward autopilot. Smartphones, social media, and endless notifications create constant partial attention. We scroll, click, and respond almost reflexively. Our attention fragments, making it harder to stay fully present in any one moment. Over time, this diminishes our ability to engage deeply with our environment and with others. Living on autopilot can also stem from a lack of purpose or meaning. When life feels monotonous or unfulfilling, we might disengage mentally as a form of protection. We go through motions without genuine interest or enthusiasm. Tasks become mechanical chores rather than meaningful activities. Over time, this numbing can extend beyond specific moments into a general sense of emptiness. The consequences of autopilot living are significant. Studies show that people who often operate on autopilot report lower levels of happiness and higher levels of anxiety and depression. They may struggle with memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Social relationships can suffer as well, since genuine connection requires attention and presence. Recognizing that you're living on autopilot is the first step toward change. It's not always easy to notice because autopilot is invisible when it's happening. Some signs include frequently forgetting conversations or actions, feeling time has slipped away without meaning, experiencing emotional numbness, or finding yourself stuck in repetitive patterns that don't serve you. Breaking free requires conscious effort to cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of bringing focused, non-judgmental attention to the present moment. It trains the brain to notice what is happening now, rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Simple activities like mindful breathing, body scans, or sensory awareness can build this skill. Incorporating mindfulness into daily life does not mean eliminating routine or efficiency. Instead, it means weaving moments of awareness into ordinary activities. For example, when washing your hands, truly feel the water. Notice the texture of the soap, the temperature, the sensations in your skin. When walking, observe each step, the movement of your body, the sounds around you. These small acts reconnect you with the present. Another helpful practice is to periodically pause and check in with yourself. Ask, what am I feeling right now? What thoughts are passing through my mind? Where is my attention focused? This brief moment of self-awareness interrupts autopilot and creates space for intentional choice. Changing your environment can also aid in reducing autopilot tendencies. If your daily routine is deeply ingrained, try altering small elements. Take a new route to work. Eat a different meal. Change where you keep your phone. Novelty challenges the brain, requiring more active engagement and reducing automatic responses. Journaling can be a useful tool as well. Writing about your day, emotions, or experiences encourages reflection and slows down mental rushing. It invites you to explore your inner world with curiosity. Over time, journaling fosters greater self-understanding, which strengthens mindful living. Social connection is vital for breaking autopilot too. Engaging deeply in conversations, listening fully, and sharing authentically brings you into the present and nourishes emotional well-being. When interactions become superficial or distracted, it's easier to slip into autopilot. Prioritizing quality time with loved ones counters this tendency. It's important to be patient and compassionate with yourself. Living on autopilot is a natural human response, and undoing it takes time. Don't judge yourself harshly for moments of mindlessness. Simply notice them and gently guide yourself back to awareness. The goal is progress, not perfection. By gradually cultivating mindfulness and presence, life gains richness and depth. Colors become brighter, tastes more vivid, sounds clearer, emotions more nuanced. You start noticing the subtle beauty in everyday moments, a smile from a stranger, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your breath. Intention becomes your compass in this new way of being. Instead of reacting out of habit, you learn to act with awareness and purpose. Choices align more closely with your values and desires. Even mundane tasks can become opportunities for growth and gratitude. Living consciously also expands your ability to handle challenges. When you aren't trapped in autopilot, you respond with flexibility and creativity rather than rigidity. Stress becomes more manageable because you're connected to the present instead of overwhelmed by worries. Emotional resilience strengthens. In the long run, moving away from autopilot opens the door to a fuller, more meaningful life. It allows you to witness your own story unfold with clarity and wonder. You reclaim the role of active participant rather than passive observer. This shift transforms not just how you live each day, but how you relate to yourself and the world. If you find yourself slipping back into autopilot, remember that awareness is always available. Mindfulness is a lifelong practice woven through moments of stillness and activity. Each breath, each step, is an opportunity to awaken. So pause now. Take a deep breath. Notice the air filling your lungs, the rhythm of your heart. Feel your feet on the ground. Listen to the sounds around you. You are here, alive, awake. This moment is yours. Living on autopilot may be comfortable, but it is not where life truly happens. Life happens in presence, in connection, in conscious choice. Embrace the journey from autopilot to awareness and discover the richness waiting in each moment. You are a story, not just a story written on paper or stored in some forgotten book on a shelf. You are a story unfolding in real time, a narrative shaped by moments, choices, memories, and dreams. From the very first breath you took to this exact moment, your life has been a sequence of events, feelings, and thoughts that weave together to create something unique and profoundly meaningful. Imagine for a moment that your life is a book. What would the title be? What kind of genre would it fall under? Is it a mystery, full of unexpected twists and turns? Or perhaps it's a journey, filled with discoveries and personal growth? Maybe it's a love story, or even a story of courage, resilience, and hope. Whatever the genre, your story is unlike any other. No one else has lived your experiences or seen the world through your eyes. Every day adds a new page to your story, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary that day feels. The small moments, the smile shared with a stranger, the quiet walk outside, the kind word you spoke to a friend, these are the sentences that build your chapters. Even when life feels tough, when challenges arise, they become part of your narrative too. They add depth, texture, and meaning. They show your strength, your ability to adapt, and your capacity to grow. When you think about your story, it's important to remember that you are both the author and the main character. You hold the pen. You decide how your story unfolds from this moment forward. While the past is written and unchangeable, the future remains blank, a space full of endless possibilities. You may not control everything that happens, but you can choose how you respond, what lessons you take, and how you continue. Your story is alive, breathing, and full of potential. Sometimes you might look back on chapters filled with pain or disappointment. Those chapters can seem heavy or even hopeless. But remember, every story has dark moments. These moments don't define you. Instead, they deepen your humanity. They remind you that you are capable of surviving, healing, and eventually finding light again. And what about the joyful chapters, the ones marked by laughter, love, and achievement? Those chapters fill your story with warmth and light. They remind you of your capacity for happiness and connection. You are a story that includes both sorrow and joy, struggle and triumph, quiet reflection and bold action. Together, these experiences create a rich tapestry that tells the full tale of who you are. Your story is not static. Just as a river flows and changes course, your narrative evolves with time. You might explore new interests, meet new people, or discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. Each of these moments redirects the flow of your story, making it even more complex and beautiful. Consider the people who share your story in some way: your family, friends, mentors, and even strangers who impact you briefly. Their stories intertwine with yours, creating a network of connections that adds depth to your narrative. Relationships add texture to your story, infusing it with shared experiences and emotions. You are not simply a solitary story, you are a story woven into the larger story of humanity. Every person's story matters, including yours. Sometimes it's easy to feel like your story is small or insignificant, especially when compared to grander events or other lives. But remember, it's in the individual stories that the richness of life is found. Your story influences those around you in ways you may not even realize. The kindness you extend, the courage you show, the lessons you learn all ripple outwards, touching lives like gentle waves across a vast ocean. If you ever feel lost within your story, Unsure of what comes next, it's okay to pause. Give yourself permission to sit with uncertainty. Not every chapter needs to be rushed or perfectly crafted. Sometimes the best narratives breathe and unfold naturally, allowing you time to reflect and grow. Being present in the moment is like savoring a key paragraph in your book, the place where insights and clarity can emerge. Your story is deeply connected to your inner world, your thoughts, dreams, hopes, and fears. These internal chapters are just as real as the external events you experience. Taking time to listen to your inner voice can help guide your journey. What does it want to tell you? What desires or truths might be waiting quietly beneath the surface? Your story is enriched when you bring attention to your inner landscape. In the grand scheme of things, your story is a vital thread in the fabric of existence. It is a single melody in the vast symphony of life. Yet your unique voice adds a distinct and irreplaceable tone. By embracing your story fully, you honor the gift of being alive, the chance to experience, to change, to connect. You are a story that has already overcome challenges, learned lessons, and created beautiful moments. You are a story that will continue to evolve with every choice, every breath, every heartbeat. As you move forward, remember that you have the power to shape your narrative, to write it with courage, kindness, and authenticity. So, take a deep breath and acknowledge this truth. Your story matters. It is worth telling, worth living, and worth celebrating. Allow yourself to be curious about your plot twists and unexpected turns. Embrace the growth that comes from challenge as well as the joy that comes from simple pleasures. You are a story, and your story is far from over. The next chapter awaits, ready for you to step into it with openness and courage. Whatever happens next, know that you are the author, the hero, and the heart of your own unfolding tale. Remember, the story that is you is unique, precious, and alive. It carries within it the power to inspire, to heal, and to change. So cherish it, nurture it, and keep writing with intention and love. Your story is your gift, not just to yourself, but to the world. The world is not real. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you see, hear, and feel might not be real. What if the world around you, the streets you walk, the people you meet, the very air you breathe is nothing more than an illusion? A carefully crafted simulation, a dream, or even a hologram. The idea that the world is not real has fascinated philosophers, scientists, and thinkers for centuries. Today, we journey into this mysterious concept, exploring what it means for our understanding of reality, consciousness, and existence itself. Let's begin by considering what we mean by real. At first glance, real seems obvious. The chair you're sitting on supports your weight. The sun's warmth touches your skin. The sound of a bird's song reaches your ears. These experiences feel undeniable. They anchor you in a world that appears solid, consistent, and objective. But appearances can be deceiving. How do we know that what we perceive truly exists independently of our minds? Philosophers have wrestled with this question for centuries. In the 17th century, René Descartes introduced a method of radical doubt. He asked himself, what if everything I see and experience is a deception? What if an evil demon is tricking me into believing that the external world exists? Descartes concluded that the only thing he could be certain of was his own consciousness, his ability to think and be aware. This realization famously led to the statement, I think, therefore I am. But if our senses can deceive us, then what can we trust? Science offers one route. By observing consistent laws of nature, making predictions, and conducting experiments, we build a shared understanding of the physical world. Yet, even scientific instruments, from telescopes to microscopes, are extensions of our senses, subject to their own limitations. We never experience the world directly. We interpret signals, patterns, and data through layers of perception. In modern times, the notion that the world might be an illusion has taken new and intriguing forms. Consider the hypothesis that reality is a simulation, an idea gaining popularity among scientists, philosophers, and even technologists. The simulation hypothesis suggests that what we call reality might actually be a sophisticated computer program run by an advanced civilization far beyond our own. If we live inside a simulation, then every interaction, every object, and every law of physics could be lines of code running in a gigantic cosmic computer. Our sensations would be generated by this system, consistent and convincing, but ultimately artificial. Supporters of this idea point to the rapid development of virtual reality and computing technology. If we ourselves can create immersive simulations today, could a far more advanced civilization do so on a scale that encompasses entire worlds and consciousnesses? This idea challenges our deepest assumptions. What does it mean for free will if our choices and thoughts are pre-programmed or determined by a digital environment? How does consciousness fit into this model? Is our sense of self a complex algorithm running in this cosmic computer? Consciousness remains one of the greatest mysteries. Some argue that consciousness arises from physical processes in the brain, neurons firing and networks interacting. Others propose that consciousness may be fundamental, existing beyond physical matter. If consciousness can exist independently, perhaps it is not bound by the reality science describes. We can also explore metaphysical views. In some Eastern philosophies, the world is considered Maya, a cosmic illusion masking the true, unchanging reality. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the physical world is transient and impermanent, an ever-changing dance of appearances. Enlightenment involves piercing through this illusion to experience the ultimate reality, which is timeless and undivided. What about dreams? When we dream, we experience vivid worlds, emotions, conversations, and even entire lifetimes. To the dreamer, these experiences feel real. Yet, when we awake, we know the dream was a creation of the mind. What if our waking life is similarly a dream on a grander scale? Neuroscience tells us that the brain actively constructs our perception of reality. The colors, shapes, sounds, and textures we experience are interpretations of electrical signals, assembled into a coherent story. Our brain fills in gaps, edits information, and even creates memories that did not objectively occur. The world we live in is, in a sense, a personal narrative. Consider also phenomena like hallucinations, illusions, and altered states of consciousness. These experiences demonstrate how fragile and malleable our perception can be. They hint that what we call reality depends heavily on the state and interpretation of our minds. If the world is not real in the way we commonly think, what does this mean for our lives? Should we abandon pursuit of knowledge, meaning, or connection? Or does this insight deepen our appreciation? Understanding that reality might be a construct allows more freedom in how we relate to our experience. It can inspire humility in our beliefs and open curiosity about existence. It encourages us to explore different perspectives, to question assumptions, and to seek awareness beyond surface appearances. This doesn't mean slipping into nihilism or despair. Instead, it invites a philosophical adventure, a journey inward and outward to uncover the nature of being. When we recognize that our senses and beliefs shape our experience, we gain the power to transform and expand our consciousness. In the end, whether the world is real or illusion, simulation or dream, the fact remains, we are here, experiencing something profound and mysterious. The questions we ask about reality echo our deepest desire to understand ourselves and our place in the cosmos. So next time you look around, pause and wonder, is this chair beneath you truly solid? Are the voices you hear independent of your mind? Is the world a mirror reflecting an inner truth, or a shimmering projection, holding secrets yet to be revealed? The world may not be real in the way we imagine, but it is the stage on which our story unfolds. A story of consciousness, perception, and meaning. One that continues to inspire seekers, dreamers, and thinkers through the ages. Sleep now with these questions resting gently in your mind. Let the boundaries between what is real and what is illusion fade into the quiet darkness. And allow yourself to drift into a place where there is no need for answers, only the peaceful mystery of existence itself. Strangers beneath familiar faces. In the quiet moments of daily life, we walk among people whose faces are as familiar to us as our own reflections. Friends, family members, colleagues' faces we recognize instantly, voices we hear without effort. Yet beneath the surface of these known visages, there can exist a landscape of mystery, hidden stories, unspoken thoughts. We are often surprised to learn how little we truly know about those closest to us. This is the paradox of familiarity. Even when we think we see everything, there are strangers beneath those familiar faces. Consider the neighbor who waves politely every morning. You might know their name, perhaps their occupation, but rarely do you glimpse the inner complexities they carry with them. Their dreams, their sorrows, their secrets, hidden layers that remain unseen. The comforting illusion of closeness, built on shared geography and routine greetings, can mask the profound solitude that exists in each person. Even in families where bonds are deep and history intertwined, the sense of knowing someone completely can be deceptive. Parents and children, siblings, spouses, relationships steeped in years of shared memories still conceal vast emotional territories. Sometimes a subtle glance or a sudden silence is silencing unsaid, something too difficult to articulate. How often do we realize that our closest loved ones might harbor thoughts and feelings we never imagined? The workplace is another realm filled with familiar faces that are simultaneously strangers. A coworker's smile might be pleasant, their demeanor affable, but that doesn't guarantee a true understanding of who they are beneath the professional exterior. Office interactions often require a performance, a presentation of self that conforms to expectations. Behind the polished conversations, personal struggles or aspirations may lie dormant. We might work side by side for years, yet never penetrate the veil of formality. Social media has intensified this phenomenon in curious ways. Platforms designed to connect us can, paradoxically, distance us from genuine intimacy. We scroll past photos and status updates, glimpsing curated snippets of others' lives. These polished portrayals create impressions but rarely reveal the full reality. Faceless usernames and carefully crafted posts underscore the notion that we may be closer than ever in virtual proximity, but further than ever from real understanding. This gap between appearance and reality is fertile ground for loneliness and misunderstanding. When we assume we know someone fully, we might overlook signs of distress or fail to offer support. When we realize how much remains unknown, we can feel isolated, adrift in a sea of people who remain, in some ways, strangers. The human experience is complex, tangled with emotions and fears that we often shield beneath masks carefully honed through years. But recognizing the presence of these strangers beneath familiar faces doesn't have to deepen the divide. Instead, it offers an invitation to cultivate empathy and curiosity, to accept that no one's story is fully visible at a glance, and to approach interactions with openness and kindness. Sometimes, simply listening without judgment can bridge the space between strangers sharing the same face. Stories of rediscovery remind us that it is possible to uncover layers we never knew existed in others. A friend signaling a hidden struggle, a family member revealing a new passion, a colleague sharing a long-held ambition. These moments awaken our awareness of the secret inner worlds around us. They encourage us to be patient, to look beyond routine, and to ask questions that matter. It is also vital to acknowledge the stranger within ourselves. Just as others carry hidden depths, so do we. We, too, wear masks to navigate the complexities of life. The confident exterior may conceal vulnerability, the casual remarks may hinder deeper truths. In embracing the unknown parts of others, we also open paths toward self-understanding and acceptance. These hidden strangers beneath familiar faces remind us of the delicate balance between connection and separation, between visibility and invisibility. They teach us that relationships are not static but dynamic, requiring ongoing attention and effort. Familiarity is not synonymous with full knowledge, but an invitation to explore continuously. Ultimately, the presence of strangers beneath familiar faces is a testament to the richness of human life. It reflects our capacity for change, for growth, for holding contradictions within ourselves and others. It challenges us to practice patience and compassion, to value the unseen as much as the seen. In embracing this awareness, we might find deeper meaning in our everyday encounters. The simple greeting exchanged on a street corner, the shared meal around a table, the quiet moment of eye contact, each holds potential for connection beyond the surface. Through these small acts, the strangers beneath familiar faces become less alien and more integral to our shared human journey. So next time you look at a familiar face, pause for a moment. Remember that behind those eyes lies a story you may never fully know, a stranger who walks beside you. Cherish the mystery, honor the complexity, and allow space for discovery. In doing so, you participate in the timeless dance of understanding and being understood, of seeing and being seen. For in every familiar face, there is a stranger waiting to be met, acknowledged, and embraced. You never woke up. It's a phrase that unsettles more than most, because it evokes a reality where the line between sleep and consciousness blurs, where the very act of waking may be nothing more than an illusion. Imagine for a moment, drifting into slumber, slipping under the veil of dreams, never quite returning to the land of the living as you once knew it. What if you never truly woke up? What if your waking hours are merely another level of sleep, another dream within the dream? Humans spend nearly 1/3 of their lives asleep. Sleep is an essential, mysterious state of retreat from the waking world, a time when the brain recharges, memories are processed, and the body repairs itself. Despite its importance, sleep remains one of the least understood phenomena. Medical science has uncovered layers upon layers of sleep stages, cycles from light to deep sleep to REM. Yet, hidden within this landscape of rest, there exists a paradox that fascinates and frightens. Sometimes sleep lapses into something darker, something that traps the mind and prevents waking entirely. The idea you never woke up can be interpreted in many ways. For some, it might be a metaphor, a feeling of drifting through life, as if in a dream, numb and disconnected from reality. For others, it is a clinical fact, a diagnosis of a sleep disorder that blurs the boundaries of consciousness. And then there are those rare, tragic cases where waking is physically impossible, the coma patient, trapped in a liminal state between worlds. Let's start with the concept of sleep itself. When you fall asleep, your brain doesn't simply switch off. It cycles through non-REM and REM phases, each serving a different function. From stages 1 through 4 of non-REM sleep, your body moves progressively into deeper rest. In REM sleep, your brain activity resembles waking patterns, and your most vivid dreams occur. This dance repeats cyclically throughout the night. Ideally, by morning, you emerge from the final REM phase feeling refreshed, your brain ready to engage with reality. But sometimes this process is disrupted. Disorders like narcolepsy force sudden, uncontrollable attacks of sleep into waking hours, while insomnia denies the ability to fall asleep or stay asleep. There are also parasomnia's unusual behaviors during sleep, such as sleepwalking or night terrors. Among these conditions, some create the sensation of never truly waking. One such condition is sleep inertia. This is a groggy, disoriented state upon waking, lasting from a few minutes to even hours. People caught in severe sleep inertia may feel as though they've never really left sleep behind. Imagine waking, but with the brain still partly caught in the fog of slumber, speech slurred, thoughts sluggish, sensation dulled. In this state, it's easy to feel disconnected, as if you've never fully woken up. Then there is a phenomenon known as sleep paralysis, occurring during transitions between sleep and wakefulness. Sleep paralysis traps you in a state of conscious awareness, while your body remains immobile, a remnant of REM atonia that prevents acting out dreams. During sleep paralysis, many experience terrifying hallucinations, an evil presence in the room, a crushing weight on the chest, paralyzing fear. Though brief, these episodes give the very real sense of being trapped between worlds, neither fully asleep nor awake. For some, this limbo is permanent or near permanent. The coma. When trauma, illness, or injury knocks the brain's critical systems offline, consciousness can fade into a prolonged state of unconsciousness. Unlike normal sleep, a coma is a deep, unresponsive state with no awareness of self or environment. Patients in coma do not respond to stimuli, do not dream or cycle through normal sleep stages, and do not wake, at least, not without medical intervention or some degree of spontaneous recovery. In some cases, coma can last days, weeks, months, or even years. Families and doctors wait in agonizing uncertainty, hoping for signs of awakening. Closely related is the vegetative state. In this condition, patients may exhibit sleep-wake cycles and open their eyes, but they remain unaware of surroundings, no purposeful movement, no response to meaningful stimuli. To an outsider, it may appear the person has woken up, yet internally, their brain remains disconnected from awareness. This raises profound questions about consciousness and what it truly means to wake. Even more enigmatic is the locked-in syndrome, where patients are fully conscious, capable of thought and feeling, but utterly paralyzed except for limited eye movement. These individuals are awake in every cognitive sense, but unable to outwardly demonstrate it. For them, waking is a prison. On a more philosophical level, the notion you never woke up taps into profound human inquiries about reality and consciousness. How do we define waking? Is waking simply the absence of sleep, or is it the presence of self-awareness? Are our waking lives any less dreamlike than our nights spent asleep? Some suggest that consciousness itself is layered, with waking life just another state within a vast spectrum. Dreams provide a parallel universe inside our heads, sometimes bizarre, sometimes lifelike. Lucid dreaming offers a state in which dreamers become aware they are dreaming and can influence their dream environment. However, when lucid dreaming ends, you wake up, but the boundaries can blur. False awakenings occur when a person dreams of waking but is still asleep, another dream within a dream. Have you ever had that experience of dreaming you wake up, start your day, but then realize later you are still dreaming? That unsettling false awakening is a reminder that consciousness can mimic waking so closely that distinguishing the two becomes challenging. The brain, it seems, has no monopoly on reality. Some spiritual traditions explore these ideas extensively. In Zen Buddhism, the concept of awakening is enlightenment, realizing the fundamental nature of reality. Here, waking up transcends physical consciousness and touches on the essence of being. The idea that most people live in a kind of trance, unaware of the true nature of existence, reflects this metaphorical sense of never waking up. In the realm of science fiction, countless stories explore the terrifying scenario that reality is a simulation, a dream, or an illusion from which awakening is impossible or yet to come. From The Matrix to Inception, the question lingers: what if your waking life is itself a kind of sleep? What if you never woke up at all? But returning to the physical world, neuroscience continues to unravel the mysteries of consciousness and sleep. Advanced brain imaging reveals networks involved in awareness and arousal. Researchers study disorders of consciousness to understand how waking develops and how it can be restored. The boundaries between sleep, coma, anesthesia, and death remain areas of active investigation. An eerily common theme in all these scenarios, whether sleep inertia, paralysis, coma, or metaphysical reflection, is the fragile nature of waking. Being awake is not just a switch you flip. It is a complex orchestration of brain functions, sensory perception, attention, memory, and more. When any part of this symphony falters, the result can be a state of limbo, a feeling that you never truly woke up. Yet, on the other side of this mystery lies hope. Advances in medicine have allowed some coma patients to regain consciousness after years. Therapies to improve sleep quality lift people out of chronic exhaustion, transforming a sense of endless sleepiness into vibrant alertness. Understanding the brain's sleep-wake cycles has improved treatments for disorders once thought untreatable. Perhaps the most profound lesson here is to cherish waking itself. To be awake, to be present, is a gift easily taken for granted. Just as sleep renews us, so too does waking bring opportunity, growth, and connection. To never wake up is to miss everything that life offers. So next time you drift through a day feeling foggy or distracted, remember, your brain is navigating a delicate balance between sleep and wakefulness. When that balance tilts, the experience can feel like never having woken up at all. Sleep and wakefulness are partners in a dance as old as life itself. One cannot exist without the other. And while you may never have truly woken up, lying somewhere beneath the surface, there is always a chance to open your eyes anew, to emerge from the shadows of sleep, and to greet the world with fresh clarity. In the end, waking up is more than just arising from bed. It is becoming aware of yourself, your surroundings, your place in the flow of time. It is embracing the fragile miracle of consciousness amid the infinite mysteries of the mind. Simulation hypothesis. Imagine waking up, looking around, and wondering what if everything you experience, every sight, every sound, every sensation, is not as real as you think? What if the world around you, the very fabric of your existence, is actually a simulation? This is the core idea behind the simulation hypothesis, a fascinating and controversial concept that has intrigued philosophers, scientists, and futurists alike. The simulation hypothesis suggests that our reality might be an artificial construction, essentially a computer-generated simulation created by an advanced intelligence. According to this idea, everything we perceive, all of space and time, matter and energy, even our own consciousness, could be components of a complex digital environment. The concept challenges the very foundation of what we consider to be real. The origins of the simulation hypothesis can be traced back to philosophical skepticism. For centuries, thinkers have questioned the reliability of our senses and perceptions. The ancient philosophy of skepticism reminded us that our senses can deceive us. More recently, the idea took a futuristic turn with the rise of computer technology and virtual reality. If we can create increasingly immersive virtual worlds, why couldn't an advanced civilization create a simulation indistinguishable from reality? In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom formalized the simulation hypothesis in a paper titled "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" Bostrom's argument is both elegant and unsettling. He proposed that one of three possibilities must be true. Either humanity will go extinct before reaching a technologically mature stage capable of creating such simulations, or technologically mature civilizations choose not to run simulations of their evolutionary history, or we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. Given technological progress and the computational power potentially available to future civilizations, Bostrom argues that the last scenario might be the most likely. To understand this better, imagine a future society with unimaginable computing resources. They could simulate entire universes with billions of conscious beings, each experiencing a life as vividly as we do. From their perspective, the simulated beings would be just as real as any biological entity. From our perspective, however, this means our reality might be a sophisticated illusion. One of the most captivating aspects of the simulation hypothesis is its potential to explain some of the mysteries of physics. Certain features of our universe, like the seemingly digital nature of physical laws at the quantum level, have sparked speculation that our universe operates based on underlying computational rules. The concept of quantization, where energy and matter can only exist in discrete amounts, resembles how computers process information in bits, zeros and ones. This has led some thinkers to consider if the universe itself is a giant computation. But if we live in a simulation, could there be glitches or bugs? Some have pointed to strange phenomena in physics, such as the limits imposed by the speed of light or the pixel-like qualities of Planck length and Planck time, as clues suggesting a digital framework. Others note the apparent fine-tuning of fundamental constants that make life possible, theorizing that these could be parameters set by the simulators. The simulation hypothesis intersects with many fields: physics, philosophy, computer science, and even theology. It challenges us to rethink consciousness and identity. If our minds are just processes running on a simulated platform, what does that mean for free will? Are we simply executing code written by some higher intelligence? Critics also raise important questions. How would we detect if we live in a simulation? Is it even possible? Some argue that any evidence could itself be part of the programmed environment. Others suggest that the idea is unfalsifiable, meaning it can neither be proven nor disproven, and so remains philosophical speculation rather than scientific theory. Yet, despite these challenges, the idea has gained traction among notable figures. Elon Musk, for example, has publicly expressed belief in the probability that we live in a simulation, citing advances in video games and virtual environments. Leading scientists and thinkers continue to debate the hypothesis, with some proposing experimental ways to test its validity, such as searching for computational limits in cosmic rays or anomalies in cosmic background radiation. Regardless of where we stand on the argument, the simulation hypothesis opens a doorway to profound questions. It forces us to examine our assumptions about existence, reality, and the nature of consciousness. Are we creators or creations? Are we the programmers or the program? As we move forward into an age of increasingly sophisticated virtual realities and artificial intelligence, these questions will only become more pressing. If we one day possess the ability to create fully conscious simulations ourselves, what ethical responsibilities will we have? Will we recognize our own simulated nature? The simulation hypothesis sits at the confluence of science fiction and science fact, offering a vision of reality that is both humbling and awe-inspiring. Whether true or not, it invites us to explore the boundaries of knowledge and the depths of what it means to be real. So next time you find yourself lost in thought, consider this: what if the world around you is, at its core, a grand simulation, an intricate dance of code and consciousness, a digital dream from which we have yet to awaken? Brain in a vat. Imagine waking up one day only to realize that everything you have ever experienced, every sight, sound, and sensation, is nothing more than a simulation. Your entire reality could be an illusion, crafted by unseen forces manipulating your brain. This intriguing and unsettling notion is at the heart of a famous thought experiment known as the brain in a vat. The brain in a vat scenario poses a challenging question. How do we know that what we perceive as reality is actually real? Could it be that our minds are being tricked, fed false information, while our physical bodies lie dormant elsewhere? This idea forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the nature of consciousness itself. To understand this thought experiment, let's start with a simpler analogy. Imagine a computer scientist developing a virtual reality simulation. Inside this simulation, there are characters who believe they live real lives, but in fact their entire world exists only as lines of code running on a computer. This raises an important question. For those characters, what counts as reality? Now, transpose this idea onto ourselves. What if our experience of the world comes not from direct contact with physical objects, but from electrical signals generated by a machine? Essentially, could we be brains sitting safely in vats, hooked up to supercomputers that feed us artificial experiences indistinguishable from reality? Philosophers have explored these unsettling possibilities for decades. One of the earliest and most influential versions of this idea can be traced back to the 17th century philosopher René Descartes. He famously doubted everything he thought he knew, imagining that a malicious demon might be deceiving him about the existence of the external world. Though Descartes did not talk about brains in vats specifically, his skepticism laid the groundwork for later thought experiments along similar lines. Fast forward to the late 20th century, when philosophers Hilary Putnam and others formalized the brain in a vat hypothesis. Putnam asked, how would a brain in a vat, disconnected from the real world yet connected to a perfect simulation, understand its own situation? Could it know that its perceptions do not correspond to an external reality? Putnam argued that if the brain's experiences are entirely determined by the simulation, it would have no reason to suspect that its world is false. In fact, from the brain's point of view, the virtual experiences would be indistinguishable from genuine perceptions. This leads to a deep philosophical puzzle. Could we ever prove that we are not brains in vats? There are several layers to this puzzle. At the most basic, it concerns skepticism about knowledge. How can we be sure that we are not deceived? But it also touches on issues in metaphysics and epistemology, such as the nature of meaning and reference. Putnam's famous solution to the problem hinges on the relationship between language and reality. He suggested that if we were truly brains in vats, our words would not refer to the objects we think they do in the real world. This means our statements about trees, chairs, and even brains themselves would be fundamentally flawed. Therefore, the very statement "I am a brain in a vat" would be self-defeating if uttered by a brain in such circumstances, because the brain's concepts would lack the proper connection to the actual objects. While this argument is clever, it doesn't entirely quiet our doubts. Many still hold that the brain in a vat scenario is a powerful reminder of how limited our certainty can be. After all, if a deceptive simulation could perfectly mimic reality, how could we ever truly know the difference? This skepticism has profound implications for philosophy, science, and even everyday life. It forces us to reconsider what it means to have knowledge, to be conscious, and to exist in the world. If our senses can be fooled, what is authentic experience? Beyond philosophy, the brain in a vat idea has captured the imagination of popular culture, inspiring stories in science fiction and movies. Perhaps the most famous example is the film The Matrix, where humans live in a simulated reality controlled by machines. This film popularized the concept, making it accessible to a wider audience and sparking discussions about technology, consciousness, and freedom. But the brain in a vat thought experiment is not just a story. It raises important questions about the future of technology itself. Advances in virtual reality, brain-computer interfaces, and artificial intelligence make the idea seem less like fantasy and more like a potential reality. Could future technologies create experiences so immersive and convincing that we lose touch with the physical world? Such possibilities invite both excitement and caution. On one hand, immersive simulations could revolutionize learning, entertainment, and communication. On the other hand, they could challenge our sense of self and reality, leading to ethical concerns about manipulation, autonomy, and mental health. Returning to the philosophical core, the brain in a vat scenario encourages us to examine the foundations of knowledge. How do we justify our beliefs about the world? Most of us rely on sensory experience, but this thought experiment shows that sensory data alone may not be enough to guarantee truth. Philosophers have proposed various responses to this skepticism. Some endorse externalism, the idea that knowledge depends on factors outside the mind, such as a reliable connection to reality. Others defend internalism, emphasizing the information available within one's own consciousness. Yet, the debate remains unresolved. Another approach considers pragmatic solutions, accepting that while we cannot prove with absolute certainty that we are not brains in vats, living as if we are in a coherent world is necessary for practical functioning. This position suggests that radical skepticism, though interesting, has limited bearing on everyday life. Still, the brain in a vat thought experiment remains a powerful tool for exploring the boundaries of human understanding. It challenges us to reflect on what it means to know, to perceive, and to exist. In some ways, it echoes ancient philosophical questions about illusion and reality found in traditions worldwide, from Plato's allegory of the cave to Eastern philosophies discussing Maya, the illusion of the world. Across cultures and centuries, humans have grappled with the nature of consciousness and the possibility that appearances may deceive. The brain in a vat also intersects with neuroscience and cognitive science, as scientists probe the workings of the brain and how it constructs experience. Understanding perception not as a passive reception of reality, but as an active creation of the mind, aligns closely with the philosophical implications of the thought experiment. If our brains generate the experience of reality, then altering brain activity could alter reality itself or our experience of it. This insight influences medical treatments, virtual environments, and even how we conceive identity. Ultimately, the brain in a vat invites us to ask, what is reality, and how do we grasp it? Are we more than the sum of our neural firings? Or is consciousness nothing but a biological process risk to deception? Though we may never definitively answer these questions, the exploration enriches our understanding of mind, knowledge, and existence. It encourages humility, reminding us that certainty may be elusive, and our grasp on reality a delicate, complex gift. So next time you look around the room, feel the chair beneath you, or listen to the sounds outside, pause and wonder, how do you know this is real? Could it be that, in some unimaginable future, the brain in a vat is not just a thought experiment, but a reality? The journey of thought sparked by this idea reveals much about ourselves and the nature of the universe. It urges us to keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep awake to the mysteries of consciousness. After all, reality may be stranger than we ever imagined, and that is a thought worth pondering long after the screen goes dark, deceived by a demon. There was once a man named Elias, a scholar of ancient texts and forgotten lore. His days were spent in dimly lit libraries, poring over manuscripts that spoke of realms beyond human perception. The more he read, the deeper he became entangled in a web of mysteries that teased the edge of his understanding. One evening, as a storm raged outside his study window, Elias discovered a peculiar book bound in dark leather, its pages yellowed with age and marked by strange symbols. The book did not appear in any catalog, yet it called to him with an irresistible pull. With trembling hands, he opened it and began to read. The text spoke of a demon, a being of immense power and cunning, capable of granting wishes, but at a price far greater than one could imagine. The demon's promise was simple, fulfillment of desires beyond mortal reach. The warning was subtle, woven between the lines, hinting at deception and despair hidden beneath the glittering surface of temptation. Intrigued and skeptical, Elias recited the incantation that the book prescribed, his voice steady despite the chill that crept along his spine. In a swirl of shadows, a figure appeared before him, tall, with eyes like burning coals and a smile that held both menace and allure. The demon had come. "Tell me your desire," the creature whispered, voice like silk and smoke. Elias thought of wealth, of knowledge, of fame, but a deeper yearning stirred within him, understanding. He wished to see beyond the veil that separated the mortal world from the hidden dimensions of existence. The demon nodded, granting his wish with a gesture that sent a pulse of dark energy through the room. At first, the gift seemed a blessing. Elias perceived layers of reality invisible to others. Colors shimmered with new hues, whispers of ancient secrets floated on the air. Yet, as days passed, his sight grew like a double-edged sword. The veil lifted too far, revealing horrors and truths his mind could scarcely bear. Haunted by visions of entities lurking in shadows, Elias found himself isolated, unable to share his burden. His friends recoiled, his work suffered, and paranoia took root. The demon's gift was a curse in disguise, a leash, tightening with every step Elias took. Desperate, he sought to undo the pact. The ancient book offered a method, a ritual fraught with danger and uncertainty. Reciting the counter-spell beneath a blood-red moon, Elias called upon the demon once more, demanding freedom. The demon laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "Freedom is never free," it said. "You asked freely, and so your soul is bound." Elias realized the true nature of the deception. The demon never intended to grant a mere wish but to entrap, to feed on the struggle, the torment of a soul caught between worlds. Years passed. Elias became a shadow among men, a man broken yet enlightened. In the depths of his despair, he found a flicker of hope, understanding that some knowledge came at too high a price, and that true power lay not in conquest but in acceptance. The demon, patient and eternal, waits still in the corners of forgotten texts, whispering promises to those who crave too deeply. And so, the tale of Elias serves as a caution. Be wary of desires whispered in the dark, for some bargains steal more than they give. Last Thursday universe. Imagine waking up one morning and learning that the entire universe, every star, every galaxy, every person, every memory, and even the ground beneath your feet, came into existence just yesterday. Not billions of years ago, not even minutes before you opened your eyes, but exactly last Thursday. This thought might seem absurd at first, and yet it is a legitimate philosophical hypothesis known as the Last Thursday universe. It challenges our deepest assumptions about reality, time, and knowledge itself. The Last Thursday universe idea suggests that everything you know and everything you think you remember was created only a few days ago, along with all your memories, books, photographs, and even fossils. These memories and physical records are indistinguishable from those that would have accumulated if the universe had existed for billions of years. In other words, your sense of history is fabricated. It only appears real. This mind-bending concept forces us to question how we can ever truly know the past or be sure about the reality of anything beyond our current experiences. Philosophers have long pondered questions about the nature of existence and knowledge. The Last Thursday universe is a modern twist on classic skeptical scenarios, much like Descartes' evil demon or the brain in a vat thought experiment. It compels us to consider the possibility that all our beliefs about the past, about continuity, and the world's history could be completely false, yet still consistent with everything we currently experience. This hypothesis doesn't just stop at questioning history, it also raises profound implications about time itself. If the universe started last Thursday, then what does that mean for the flow of time? Are our clocks, watches, and calendars trustworthy? Has the flow of past time been real, or is it simply an illusion imposed onto us by fabricated memories and records? The Last Thursday universe suggests that what we perceive as an extended past is a carefully constructed tapestry of apparent continuity, designed to give us a coherent sense of identity in an ordered world. But if the entire universe came into being only last Thursday, why would it appear so old? Why would the stars be so far away, the fossils so ancient, and the records so detailed? The answer lies in the idea that the universe, our memories, and all evidence of the past were created complete with the appearance of age. The process that brought the universe into being included the creation of everything that would logically point to a history that never actually existed. This leads to an interesting form of radical skepticism. If all our evidence and memories can be fabricated, is there any way to know if the universe is really young or truly ancient? Is it possible to find proof that the universe has existed for a long time? Or is that proof always just another part of the illusion? The Last Thursday universe problem shows us how difficult it is to claim absolute certainty about anything beyond our immediate experience. At its core, the Last Thursday universe challenges the idea of empirical knowledge, the knowledge we gain through observing the world. Typically, we trust our senses, memory, and records to construct a coherent story of the past. We believe that the past is real and that time flows inexorably forward. But if those memories and records can be faked, then empirical knowledge loses its footing. How can we know anything about what happened before last Thursday, if everything that leads us to believe in that past could have been created only yesterday? Some may argue that this hypothesis is unfalsifiable, meaning it cannot be proven or disproven, and therefore not worth serious consideration. They might say it's just a fanciful scenario that doesn't affect how we live or understand the world. But even if it is unfalsifiable, the Last Thursday universe forces us to confront the limits of human knowledge. It prompts us to examine what it means to know, to believe, and to remember. In practical terms, whether the universe began last Thursday or billions of years ago, our experience remains the same. We wake up, we live, we make plans, we learn, and we remember. The illusion of the past, or the reality of the past, in a sense, doesn't change the way we engage with the present moment. Yet this mental experiment encourages humility. It reminds us that certainty is elusive, and the stories we tell ourselves about history and existence may not be as solid as we assume. Furthermore, the Last Thursday universe intersects interestingly with modern theories in cosmology and quantum physics. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that reality may be more fluid and probabilistic than we once believed. The origins of the universe remain mysterious, with some models describing a beginning that is indistinguishable from nothingness. Though these scientific ideas don't propose a literal last Thursday start, they open minds to the notion that our understanding of time and existence is far from complete. In the realm of metaphysics, the Last Thursday universe also blends with ideas about simulated realities. Could it be that our universe is a simulation, a digital construct created moments ago with all the data and memory intact? If so, last Thursday might have been the moment when the simulation was switched on, bringing into being everything along with an artificial past. In this scenario, not only is our history questionable, but the nature of reality itself is a form of encoded information, created for reasons unknown to us. This also brings up fascinating connections with theology and creation myths. Many religious traditions teach that the universe was created by a divine being at a specific point in time. The Last Thursday universe hypothesis can be seen as an extreme secular parallel, where a creator or a cause brings forth all existence abruptly, including all the signs that tell a story predating the actual creation. It invites reflection on faith, creation, and how humans construct meaning from ideas about origins. Despite how unsettling the Last Thursday universe may feel, it can also be strangely comforting. It suggests that existence itself is a fresh beginning, a clean slate, albeit one seemingly layered with depth and history. This newness means that every moment is imbued with the potential for discovery and self-definition, free from the burdens of an objective, ancient past. It encourages a presence-based life philosophy, where the only certainty lies in the now. In conclusion, the Last Thursday universe is a powerful thought experiment that forces us to question our assumptions about time, memory, history, and knowledge. It reminds us that our understanding of reality depends heavily on the trust we place in our perceptions and the coherence of the stories we tell ourselves. Whether or not the universe truly began last Thursday is less important than the realization that much of what we take for granted could be questioned at a deeper level. This idea invites a powerful curiosity about what it means to exist and to know. It challenges us to embrace uncertainty and to appreciate the mystery woven into the fabric of our lives. While the world around us appears vast and ancient, layered in history and complexity, the Last Thursday universe whispers, a quiet reminder that even in the grandest expanses, the boundary between past and present may be far thinner and far stranger than we ever imagined. Time is an illusion. Such a simple statement, and yet it holds within it one of the greatest mysteries of existence. From childhood, we experience time as an unstoppable river, flowing relentlessly from the past, through the present, and into the future. We measure it in seconds, minutes, and hours. We mark our lives by calendars and clocks. But what if all of this is simply a grand illusion? What if time, as we perceive it, is not a fundamental feature of reality, but rather a construct of our minds? Today, let us gently explore the idea that time, the steady pulse to which we synchronize our lives, may be not as real as it seems. Our journey begins with the nature of time itself. What is it? We often think of time as a kind of container in which events happen. Moments are lined up one after another, like pearls on a string. But this linear procession has been questioned, challenged, even dismissed by some of the most brilliant thinkers throughout history. The ancient Greek philosopher Parmenides argued that change is an illusion. If change occurs, then something comes into being or passes away. But if what is cannot come from what is not, then true change does not exist. From this perspective, time, which depends on change, is not real. Fast forward thousands of years to the early 20th century, when Albert Einstein revolutionized our understanding of space and time with his theory of relativity. Einstein showed us that time is not an absolute universal clock ticking uniformly for everyone, everywhere. Instead, time is relative. It flexes and bends with the fabric of space itself, affected by speed and gravity. Time can slow down for someone traveling at high speeds, and it can tick differently near massive bodies like stars and black holes. This revelation shattered the Newtonian concept of an absolute, constant time. Suddenly, time was not a simple, steady river, but a more flexible, dynamic dimension intertwined with space. Space and time formed a single four-dimensional fabric called spacetime. But what does this mean for our experience? If time is relative, then the past, present, and future are not the strict divisions we imagined. Instead, what one observer sees as now can be the past or future for another observer traveling at a different speed or located elsewhere in the universe. This suggests that the passage of time might not be as universal or objective as our senses tell us. Some physicists take this idea further. They propose that all moments past, present, and future exist equally. This view, often called the block universe or eternalism, envisions time as a dimension similar to space. Just as all places exist simultaneously in space, all times could exist simultaneously in the block universe. Our experience of flowing through time is then more like a perspective from within this structure, rather than a fundamental property of time itself. From this perspective, what we call now is merely a point on this vast block. Our consciousness appears to move along the time dimension, creating the illusion of moving through time, but in reality, the entire timeline exists at once. Think of a book resting on a table. Every page of the book corresponds to a moment in time. All pages are there at the same time. You might read the book page by page, feeling as if the story unfolds sequentially, but the story already exists in its entirety. Time, then, might be like that book. The past, present, and future pages exist together, but our conscious experience moves through them in order. Even more provocative is the idea that time might be a feature of our consciousness. The philosopher Immanuel Kant suggested that time and space are forms of human intuition, ways our mind organizes sensory input, not properties of things in themselves. We might be wired to perceive the world as unfolding in time, an arrangement necessary for making sense of experiences and for survival. But at the deepest level of reality, this arrangement might dissolve. Modern neuroscience adds another layer to this puzzle. Our brains construct the perception of time in intricate ways. Our internal clocks help us order events and predict what comes next, but these clocks are not infallible. Moments can stretch or contract. Time flies when we are absorbed in joy and drags in boredom or pain. Psychological experiments show that our experience of the present moment, the now, is not instantaneous. Instead, it spans a slight window. Our brains compile streams of sensory data, integrate information over milliseconds or seconds to create a coherent experience of the moment. The sense of time's flow might be an emergent property arising from the brain's internal processes. Without a brain to experience it, would time have any meaning? And yet the laws of physics themselves are remarkably indifferent to the direction of time. Many fundamental equations work just as well running backward as forward. The microscopic world of particles does not prefer past to future. So why do we have the feeling that time flows in one direction? This brings us to the mystery of entropy. Entropy, the measure of disorder in a system, tends to increase over time. This arrow of time, the direction pointing from less to more entropy, gives us a sense of irreversible change. A broken glass does not spontaneously reassemble. Heat flows from hot to cold, but not the other way around. This unidirectional increase in entropy is often cited as the physical basis for the feeling of time's flow. But entropy itself is a statistical property describing large numbers of particles. It does not exist as a fundamental force enforcing time's direction, but rather as a tendency emerging from microstates to macrostates. Some physicists speculate that time emerges from the entangled complexity of the universe, rooted in quantum phenomena. At the quantum level, time may not even be defined in the usual sense. Quantum gravity theories, attempting to unify quantum mechanics and general relativity, often treat time as an emergent phenomenon, not a fundamental one. All these scientific perspectives challenge the intuitive sense of time as a flowing river. Instead, they hint that time is a construct, a way we impose order on a reality that is fundamentally timeless. What does this mean for us, sitting here now? experiencing time as it ticks forward relentlessly. Should it unsettle us or comfort us? If time is an illusion, then the past is not gone. The future is not yet to come. They coexist, embedded in the fabric of reality. Perhaps the regrets and hopes that consume us are shadows cast by our perception. Understanding that time's passage is a projection may open us to a more peaceful acceptance of the present moment. It also invites us to inquire deeper into the nature of existence, consciousness, and reality. If time does not fundamentally flow, then what is the meaning of change, of life, of death? Ancient traditions, from Buddhism to mystical philosophies, have long seen time as Maya, a veil of illusion. They teach that true liberation comes from transcending the illusion of linear time, finding peace in the eternal now. Modern science, in its own language, echoes this ancient insight. The boundary between past, present, and future is fuzzy and porous, shaped both by physics and perception. So, what if our obsession with time, a master of schedules, deadlines, and taxes, is misplaced? What if letting go of time's illusion allows a deeper connection with reality, a sense of timelessness that grounds us beyond anxiety and distraction? There is freedom in knowing that the past does not bind us, nor the future control us. All that truly exists is this moment, vast and open, the eternal now. When you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let your awareness settle, you may notice that time seems to slow or stop. In these quiet spaces, the illusion thins, and the mystery reveals itself. Time is an illusion, woven from strands of perception, memory, and anticipation, but it is an illusion that shapes our lives profoundly. To understand this illusion is not to deny life's reality, but to embrace a more fluid, expansive view. Time is a story we tell ourselves, a map to navigate existence, but we are not bound by it. Beyond the ticking clock lies a timelessness, a stillness, a place where all moments coexist. So, as you drift through your day or into sleep, remember the river of time need not carry you helplessly downstream. You are the awareness witnessing the dance, the storyteller of the now. Time is an illusion, and in that illusion lies the doorway to freedom, no audience to your life. There is a certain solitude in living a life without an audience. Imagine walking through the world knowing that no one is watching, no applause will follow your every move, and no crowd awaits your every word. This is the quiet reality for many of us, living a life where our struggles, our triumphs, our very existence sometimes go unnoticed. It is a life lived without an audience. At first glance, this may sound lonely. The human desire for recognition is deeply wired. From a young age, we seek validation in the smiles of our parents, the praise of teachers, the approval of peers. We crave an audience for our achievements, hoping that our efforts are seen and appreciated. This longing for connection through acknowledgement is natural. We want to matter to someone, to be witnessed in our journey through life. But what happens when there is no audience? When the grand gestures go unnoticed? When the small victories slip by without a word of encouragement? When the days blend together without fanfare or applause? Living without an audience can feel like shouting into the void. It's easy to wonder if what we do truly makes a difference. It is easy to feel invisible. Yet in this invisibility, there lies a quiet strength, a hidden freedom. Without an audience, there is no pressure to perform or conform. There are no expectations dictating how you should act, speak, or live. The absence of spectators frees you from the need to wear masks, to craft personas that please others. Without an audience, you can simply be. This freedom can be deeply uncomfortable at first. It challenges our sense of identity, which is often tied to how others see us. Without the mirror of other people's eyes, we must learn to find ourselves. Who are we when there is no crowd? What drives us when applause is absent? This journey inward can be daunting, but it also offers the opportunity to discover what truly matters. Living a life with no audience asks you to cultivate internal validation, a sense of worth that does not depend on others' recognition. It pushes you to find meaning in your actions because they are meaningful to you, regardless of external acknowledgement. This kind of self-acceptance is a quiet revolution against a culture obsessed with visibility, likes, and followers. Consider the effort of a teacher who works tirelessly every day, yet never receives praise, or the parent whose sacrifices go unnoticed, or the artist who creates in solitude, away from the spotlight. Their lives are often invisible to the wider world, yet full of purpose and quiet dignity. Their value is intrinsic, not contingent on applause. In a world increasingly driven by social media, where validation is measured in followers and likes, the notion of living without an audience can feel almost radical. Most people curate their lives to be seen, admired, and envied. They perform for a virtual crowd, hoping to fill the emptiness with the glow of screens. Yet this constant performance can be exhausting and shallow. Living with no audience calls us back to authenticity. It invites us to embrace the mundane, the ordinary, the unseen moments. It reminds us that life's value is not determined by how many people watch, but by how deeply we engage with our own experience. To live without an audience is to live with presence and intention. There is also a subtle kindness in living without an audience. Without the spotlight, we are freed from comparison and judgment. There is no one to compete with, no one to impress. This can cultivate an inner peace, a gentle acceptance of our imperfections and limitations. When no one is watching, we can forgive ourselves more easily. At the same time, the absence of an audience can reveal the need for connection. Humans are social creatures. We are designed to share our stories, to be witnessed and heard. Even if the audience is small or silent, knowing that someone else is present can be deeply comforting. Living truly alone with no audience whatsoever can be a heavy burden. This tension between solitude and connection is the paradox of living without an audience. On one side, solitude offers a space for self-discovery and freedom. On the other, the human heart longs for companionship and understanding. Finding balance means learning to appreciate solitude without falling into loneliness. In these quiet spaces, we can listen deeply to ourselves, to our desires, to the world around us. When the noise of external approval fades, we gain clarity. We learn to trust our own voice, to follow our own path. This clarity is a precious gift of living without an audience. It is also important to recognize that having no visible audience does not mean we are truly alone. Even when our lives seem unseen, every action we take ripples outward in ways we may never know. The kindness we extend, the quiet strength we embody, may inspire or support others like faint echoes traveling through the air. Living without an audience does not have to be a story of invisibility or insignificance. It can be a story of resilience. It can be a story of personal integrity, where our values guide us instead of others' opinions. It can be a story of depth, where our inner world grows rich and meaningful, even in the absence of external validation. In fact, many spiritual traditions celebrate the value of unseen effort and invisible growth. The roots of a tree grow deep beneath the surface, hidden from view, yet they are what nourish the tree's strength. Similarly, the quiet moments of self-care, reflection, and love that are rarely witnessed are fundamental to a flourishing life. Our culture's obsession with visibility can sometimes blind us to this truth. We equate being seen with being alive, and being unnoticed with being forgotten. But life is not a performance. A meaningful life is not measured by an audience's size. When you feel that no one is watching, remember that your life is yours first. Live it not to be seen, but to be felt, to feel connection, to feel purpose, to feel alive. The joy that comes from this kind of living is not loud or boastful. It is soft, steady, and enduring. It can be helpful to create rituals that honor your life without an audience. Maybe it is a quiet morning walk, a journal where you write without sharing, a daily breath of gratitude. These private acts cultivate a relationship with yourself that no external validation can replace. At times, the desire for an audience may return. This is natural and human. We all want to be known and appreciated. When that longing arises, it can be balanced with the understanding that your worth is not defined by others. You can choose to share your life not because you need applause, but because you want authentic connection. As you navigate a life with no audience, notice the subtle shifts within you. Are you more mindful of your inner dialogue? Are you kinder to yourself? Are you more present to the small wonders around you? These are signs of growth in a life lived quietly, away from the spotlight. Remember, absence of an audience does not mean absence of impact. Sometimes the most profound transformations happen in silence. A single life lived with honesty and courage, even unseen, is a beacon. It lights the way for those who will follow. So embrace the solitude of no audience. Let it be a space where you discover who you are beyond appearance and approval. Let it be a sanctuary where your spirit can rest and renew. In this quiet freedom, you may find the truest expression of yourself. No audience means no distractions. No audience means no masks. No audience means no compromises for applause. It means living each moment fully because you choose to, not because someone else is watching. It means valuing yourself with or without recognition. In the stillness of a life without an audience, listen carefully. You might just hear the steady, gentle voice of your own soul. You are not special. Those 3 words might sting a little. They're blunt. They punch through the illusions we sometimes build around ourselves. But hear me out. This isn't about putting you down. It's about waking up to a simple truth that can free you. You are not special. At least not in the way you might think. From the moment we're born, society starts feeding us stories about our uniqueness, our exceptional talents, our destined greatness. Every kid gets a trophy. Every effort is praised. You're amazing, they say. You can be anything you want. Sure, it feels good. It boosts confidence. But what if this relentless message sets us up for disappointment? What if believing in our own specialness obscures the reality that we're part of something much bigger, more ordinary than we realize, and that this ordinariness is actually a blessing? Consider this. Billions of people walk the earth. Each of us is a complex mix of experiences, thoughts, emotions, and quirks. Yet, in the grand tapestry of existence, you are one among many. Your struggles, your triumphs, your joys and sorrows, they echo those of countless others. This doesn't minimize your pain or your happiness. It just places it in perspective. When you accept that you are not the center of the universe, something remarkable happens. Pressure falls away. The need to constantly prove yourself, to stand above the crowd, eases. You stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You gain space to grow, to learn, to be content with where you are. It's tempting to place yourself on a pedestal, to believe that you must be extraordinary to deserve respect or love. But this belief is a trap. It creates a restless striving that never quite satisfies, because no matter how special you think you are, there will always be someone better, faster, or more talented, or so the story goes. Instead, trying to be special can disconnect you from reality. It fosters entitlement and egocentrism. It blinds you to the simple joys found in everyday moments: a shared laugh, a quiet walk, a helping hand. So what if the best way forward is to embrace your ordinariness, to recognize that you are not special, and that's perfectly okay? This mindset shift can be liberating. No longer caught in the exhausting chase for significance, you can focus on becoming genuinely kind, humble, and resilient. You learn that your value doesn't depend on being seen as unique or important by others. It comes from showing up authentically, flaws and all. Perhaps this perspective brings to mind certain writings, like those of David Foster Wallace, who challenged the culture of self-obsession, or the wisdom of ancient philosophers who spoke about the importance of humility and self-awareness. When you stop building yourself up as a shining star, you start connecting with others as equals. You develop empathy. You see that everyone carries their own burdens, fears, and hopes. This shared human experience is what truly matters. You are not special, but neither are you insignificant. You are an essential part of the human mosaic, one tile among billions. Each tile matters, but none is undeniably more important than another. Accepting this puts you in a better place to contribute meaningfully. You become less focused on spotlight and applause, more attentive to substance and sincerity. Imagine life not as a solo performance, but as a collective journey. Your role is one of countless others, sometimes leading, sometimes following, always learning. This humble stance allows for growth without ego. It opens doors to patience, forgiveness, and gratitude. Gratitude, in fact, blossoms deeper when you realize you don't have to be special to experience wonder. The sunrise doesn't shine brighter for you alone. It simply shines because it rises. Your worth is not measured by a medal or a title. It's not defined by fame or fortune. Instead, it's found in kindness given and received, in perseverance despite setbacks, and in the simple courage to be yourself. So, the next time you feel the urge to prove how exceptional you are, pause and consider this. Being ordinary is not a limitation. It is the canvas on which extraordinary moments can be painted. Being not special frees you from unrealistic expectations and unhealthy comparisons. Being part of the ordinary crowd means you're part of something timeless and vast. You may be just one person, but your presence matters. The world doesn't need more people trying desperately to stand out. It needs more people who are grounded, authentic, and compassionate. You are not special, and that truth can set you free. Free will is an illusion. Free will is one of those ideas that feels as natural and undeniable as breathing. Every day we make countless decisions, large and small, from what to eat for breakfast to the career paths we pursue. We like to think that these choices come from a place deep inside us, that we are the architects of our own lives. But what if free will is an illusion? What if the feeling of making conscious choices is just a story our brain tells itself? Tonight, let's explore this fascinating and unsettling idea that free will might not exist at all. When we talk about free will, we usually mean the ability to make choices unimpeded by prior causes, influences, or constraints. It's the idea that at some moment you could have done otherwise because you truly had the power to choose differently. This notion underpins much of our moral, legal, and social systems. We reward people for good decisions and punish them for bad ones because we believe they acted freely. But this assumption has been challenged by philosophers, neuroscientists, and psychologists alike. One of the earliest challenges to free will came from the famous experiments of Benjamin Libet in the 1980s. Libet measured the brain activity of volunteers who were asked to move their fingers whenever they wished. Remarkably, he found that the brain's readiness potential, a signal indicating preparation for movement, appeared several hundred milliseconds before the participants reported a conscious intention to act. In other words, the brain seemed to decide to move before the person became aware of the decision. This suggested that the feeling of making a conscious choice might be a kind of after-the-fact interpretation, not the actual cause of the action. Libet's experiments have been repeated, refined, and extended over the decades, with many researchers finding similar results. It's as if our unconscious brain initiates actions, and our conscious mind merely catches up, endorsing decisions already made. If that's true, free will begins to look less like a real power and more like an impressive illusion created by our minds. Beyond neuroscience, the problem of free will arises in philosophy through the concept of determinism. Determinism is the idea that every event, including human decisions and actions, is determined by prior causes in accordance with the laws of nature. If everything is causally connected in this way, then the future is predetermined by the past. Our choices would then be no more free than the orbit of the planets. Philosophers have debated whether determinism and free will can coexist, a position called compatibilism, or if they are fundamentally incompatible. Compatibilists redefine free will as the freedom to act according to one's motivations and desires, even if those desires have deterministic causes. However, critics argue that this doesn't capture the intuitive sense of free will, which suggests genuine alternatives and uncaused choices. Adding another layer, advances in genetics and neuroscience have revealed that our behavior is deeply influenced by brain chemistry, neural architecture, and hereditary factors beyond our control. Our preferences, impulses, and even moral reasoning can be traced to physical processes within the brain. The idea that a little self inside us is pulling the strings is increasingly hard to sustain. Instead, it appears that we are sophisticated biological machines whose apparent freedom is shaped by complex networks of cause and effect. Psychology further complicates the picture. Studies show that much of our behavior is driven by unconscious processes, habits, biases, and automatic responses that we barely notice. When we think we're making careful, rational choices, much of that thought is post hoc rationalization or framing of decisions shaped by hidden influences. The feeling of control is real, but the source of that control is murky. This is not to say that we are robots blindly following a script. Our brains are exceptionally complex, capable of generating multiple possible actions based on past experience, predictions of the future, and contextual input. The deterministic story is nuanced. It doesn't mean our lives are absolutely fixed, but that possibilities are constrained by physical processes and prior conditions. The sense of freedom may lie in this dynamic interplay, the tension between predictability and variability in the system. But if free will is an illusion, does that mean we are not responsible for our actions? This question strikes at the heart of ethics and law. Some argue that without free will, punishment and reward lose their meaning. Others suggest that even without metaphysical free will, social systems based on accountability still serve crucial practical purposes. Holding people responsible shapes behavior, encourages societal cooperation, and protects individuals. Responsibility might be a useful fiction like many social constructs that helps keep communities functioning. Interestingly, Recognizing the illusory nature of free will can have profound psychological effects. It can reduce feelings of guilt and regret by framing behaviors as outcomes of causes beyond personal control. This can promote compassion and forgiveness, both toward oneself and others. On the other hand, it might risk resignation or fatalism, making people feel powerless to change. Some thinkers propose striking a balance, accepting the constraints imposed by biology and environment, while embracing the practical reality that our decisions matter within those boundaries. The illusion of free will, though not ultimate truth, may still be an essential aspect of human experience, enabling creativity, growth, and moral reflection. So where does this leave us? If free will is an illusion, does that rob life of meaning? Perhaps not. Life can still be rich with purpose, connection, and discovery, even if our choices are ultimately governed by forces beyond our conscious awareness. Understanding the limits of free will can deepen our appreciation of complexity and mystery in the human mind. Your choices were pre-written. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every decision you have ever made was already written down somewhere, like words on a script you never saw. From the smallest gestures, the way you brush your teeth, or what you choose for breakfast, to the most significant moments of your life. The offer of a job, a sudden relationship, or a new city to call home. What if none of it was truly your choice? What if your life plays out like an unfolding story where all the chapters were drafted long before you took the first breath? This might sound unsettling, or even downright frightening, but it touches on one of the deepest mysteries of human existence: free will versus determinism. We like to think of ourselves as captains of our own ship, masters of our fate, and authors of our unique story. When we make a choice, we feel the satisfying sense of agency that we are actively shaping our lives and destinies. But what if that feeling is an illusion? What if your choices were pre-written, not by you, but by forces beyond your control? This idea has occupied philosophers, scientists, and storytellers for centuries. It forces us to ask, do we truly have free will, or is free will just a comforting story we tell ourselves to make sense of the world? Philosophers call this tension the problem of determinism. At its core, determinism is the notion that every event or state is determined by prior events according to fixed laws of nature. In other words, everything that happens is the result of a chain of causes stretching back to the dawn of time. If every cause has an effect, then every effect has a cause, and so on, a never-ending cascade of causes. Imagine a line of dominoes perfectly aligned. Once you push the first domino, the entire sequence will fall exactly as predicted. Could our lives be like that domino chain, unfolding not randomly, but necessarily, with every choice, action, and thought predetermined? This idea challenges how we understand choice itself. Our brain is incredibly complex, an intricate network of neurons firing in patterns influenced by genetics, environment, and learned experience. Neuroscience reveals that much of what happens in our mind operates beneath the level of conscious awareness. Studies have shown that the brain often initiates actions milliseconds before we become aware of our intention to act. This has led some scientists to argue that what we perceive as conscious choice is actually the brain rationalizing decisions already made subconsciously. Consider an example: you decide to raise your hand. You feel conscious of making that choice, but neuroscientists can detect the brain activity that initiates that movement before you become aware of deciding to do it. If the brain's preparation precedes conscious awareness, can we say you truly chose to raise your hand, or was this action set in motion by parts of your brain beyond your conscious control? This doesn't mean you're powerless, but it suggests that your sense of agency may be more complicated than we imagine. If our choices were truly pre-written, it would mean our life paths were mapped out in advance. This notion links to the idea of a script, a written plan for every action and event. The inability to deviate from this script raises questions about responsibility and morality. How can we hold someone accountable for choices they never really made? How do we understand praise or blame if we're just players following a predetermined script? Yet, the experience of making choices is universal and undeniable. We deliberate, weigh options, and face consequences. Our social and legal systems depend on the assumption that we are responsible for our actions. So, is the deterministic view too bleak or reductive? Some thinkers propose compatibilism, the idea that free will and determinism are not mutually exclusive. According to this view, even if our choices are influenced or determined by prior causes, We can still be free as long as we act according to our desires and intentions without external coercion. This leads us to reflect on what freedom truly means. Is it the ability to have done otherwise, to have chosen differently at a point in time? Or is it simply behaving in alignment with our inner self, even if that self is shaped by forces outside our control? In this sense, freedom could be seen as the capacity to act according to your personal values and motivations, even when those motivations arise from predetermined sources. The pre-written choices idea also touches on the human experience of fate and destiny. Many cultures and religions speak of a divine plan, a cosmic script that guides our lives. This can be comforting. If everything is part of a larger design, then suffering, joy, success, and failure all have meaning. But it can also feel like surrendering control. Do you embrace the script handed to you, or do you rebel against it? Some spirituality encourages surrender, trusting the flow of life, while others emphasize personal growth and self-command. Modern physics adds another layer of complexity. While classical physics tends to support a deterministic universe, quantum mechanics introduces elements of randomness and uncertainty. At the tiniest scales, particles behave unpredictably, suggesting that not everything is strictly determined. Could this quantum indeterminacy allow for genuine free will? Or is randomness just another form of unpredictability that doesn't equate to free choice? After all, random chance is not the same as conscious decision-making. If your actions were the result of random quantum events, would that feel any more like freedom? The notion that your choices were pre-written can also be explored through storytelling and fiction. Think about movies or books where characters face destiny or prophecy. Their actions seem set until a twist allows them to break free. Yet, from our perspective as readers or viewers, their entire journey is fixed by the author's pen. Does this mirror our own lives? Are we characters in a grand story told by greater consciousness, natural laws, or fate? Are we co-authors, or merely actors delivering lines? Some have proposed that time itself may not be linear as we experience it. Perhaps past, present, and future coexist simultaneously, like pages of a book. From this block universe perspective, everything, every choice, life event, thought exists all at once. If so, your entire life script exists as a whole, immutable text. You are simply experiencing it line by line, moment by moment. This challenges our intuitive sense of becoming, of creating our future, of time flowing forward. If your choices were pre-written, it may initially seem to diminish meaning or purpose, but paradoxically, it might also deepen it. Imagine reading a novel twice. The first time is full of surprises and suspense. The second time, knowing the ending, you appreciate the intricate weaving of foreshadowing, themes, and character development. Similarly, if your life is a script, knowing it doesn't mean your experience is any less real or valuable. It means your journey is a complex and beautiful story, rich with cause and effect, intention, and consequence. Moreover, the awareness of a pre-written script might inspire acceptance and presence. Rather than frantically trying to control or rewrite the script, you might find peace in flowing with it. Like a skilled actor who knows the script but infuses it with passion, nuance, and interpretation, you bring your unique presence to the unfolding narrative. Your choices may be pre-written, but how you embody them is yours. Ultimately, the question of whether your choices were pre-written leads us into deep philosophical, scientific, and spiritual territory. It invites us to explore what it means to be human, to choose, to act, and to live. Whether our choices are predetermined or freely made may remain a mystery, but the very act of questioning enriches our understanding of ourselves. Consciousness is an illusion. It is a statement that immediately challenges our most deeply held intuitions about ourselves. After all, each of us experiences consciousness every single moment of our waking lives. We feel the warmth of sunlight on our skin, the taste of coffee in the morning, the tug of emotions like joy, sadness, or curiosity. We are aware of ourselves as agents moving through the world, making decisions, forming memories, and reflecting on who we are. It feels undeniable. Yet, the idea that consciousness might be an illusion suggests that all of this experience, all of this feeling of being, is not what it seems. It is a fascinating idea, and one that has grown more compelling as science and philosophy have explored the nature of the mind. When we speak of consciousness, we usually mean the subjective inner experience, the what it is like to be someone or something. Philosophers often call this phenomenon qualia, the raw sensations and feelings that construct our mental lives. The redness of a rose, the bitterness of dark chocolate, the ache of loneliness, these are all part of conscious experience. The problem is, consciousness resists easy scientific explanation. We can study the brain's activity, identify neural circuits, measure brain waves, and understand how neurons communicate with astonishing detail. But none of this fully captures why or how these physical processes give rise to the subjective feeling of awareness. This problem is sometimes called the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers. The hard problem highlights the difficulty of explaining how physical matter and energy, arranged in billions of neurons, could produce the inner movie of conscious experience. Many scientists and thinkers concede that this is a profound mystery. Some even suggest that consciousness might not be a fundamental entity at all, but rather a kind of illusion, a trick our brains play on themselves. To understand how consciousness could be an illusion, it helps to think about illusions more generally. An illusion is a perception that does not correspond to objective reality. For example, when you look at a mirage in the desert, your brain interprets the shimmering light as water on the horizon, but it's not water. The mirage is a kind of deception created by the brain's way of interpreting sensory input. Similarly, consciousness might be a mental mirage, a constructed appearance that makes us think there is something more going on than there really is. One way to frame this is through the idea of the self model. The brain is an incredibly complex organ that constantly models and predicts the world around us, so we can navigate it effectively. As part of this process, it also creates a model of itself, a kind of internal map of the body, its sensations, and the mental states it assumes it has. This model is what we experience as the self, the I that experiences the world. But what if this self model is itself a simulation? A useful fiction that helps us function, but that does not correspond to any singular, unitary consciousness? This perspective draws from the work of thinkers like Daniel Dennett, who argues that consciousness is not a thing but a process, or more accurately, a set of processes that take place in the brain. When these processes come together, they create the impression of a unified conscious self. But this unity is an illusion. Instead, consciousness is a fragmented, dynamic flow of information that the brain stitches together into a coherent narrative. This narrative is what we experience as our conscious life. The metaphor often used is that of the center of gravity. Just as a center of gravity is not a physical object but a useful point for understanding the dynamics of a physical object, the self or consciousness is not a physical thing but a useful point of reference created by the brain. We mistake this useful construct for reality itself. If consciousness is an illusion, what does that mean for our understanding of free will, identity, and personal responsibility? These concepts depend heavily on the idea that there is a conscious self who makes choices. But if that self is an illusion, constructed by neural processes beyond our control, then the way we think about agency changes dramatically. Neuroscience supports this shift in perspective. Experiments by Benjamin Libet and others have shown that the brain initiates actions milliseconds before we become consciously aware of deciding to act. This implies that what we experience as a conscious decision is actually a post hoc attribution. Our brain narrates a story of conscious intent after the fact. Consciousness, then, is more like a witness to events already set in motion than a commander directing from the front. This does not mean that consciousness or the feeling of conscious experience is not real in some sense. It is very real as a subjective phenomenon. But its reality is not as an entity or substance. It is real as a mental construction shaped by the brain's activity. From an evolutionary standpoint, this construction may have developed to enhance survival by allowing complex social interaction, planning, and learning. Further insight comes from exploring altered states of consciousness. Meditation, hypnosis, psychedelic experiences, and sleep show how fluid and malleable conscious experience can be. In some meditative states, the sense of self dissolves entirely, leaving only raw sensory data or a profound sense of unity with the world. These experiences support the idea that the self and consciousness are not fixed givens but dynamic constructs. Artificial intelligence offers another way to examine consciousness. Some argue that current AI systems lack any genuine consciousness. They process information but do not experience anything. If consciousness is simply a computational process that brains perform, then in principle it could be replicated by machines. But if consciousness involves something beyond computation, or if it is deeply tied to the biological nature of brains, then replicating it may be impossible. The illusion of consciousness also invites reflection on our fears and hopes about mortality. If the self we cherish is an illusion, what happens when the brain stops functioning? From this view, death is the shutting off of the processes that generate the self-model and the narrative of conscious experience. There is no soul traveling elsewhere or enduring beyond the body. Consciousness arises and dissolves with brain activity. This understanding can be sobering, but it can also be liberating, encouraging us to embrace the present without clinging to a permanent self. In the realm of philosophy, the illusion of consciousness connects with ideas from Buddhism and other contemplative traditions that describe the self as an imposter. These traditions teach that much of human suffering arises from attachment to a fixed self-identity. Recognizing the self as a fluid, impermanent construct can lead to greater peace and insight. In conclusion, the idea that consciousness is an illusion challenges us to rethink everything we believe about who we are. Consciousness feels real, but it may be a sophisticated construct crafted by the brain to help us navigate the world. It may lack independent existence apart from neural processes. This does not diminish the wonder of conscious experience, it only adds a layer of mystery and complexity. As science advances, we may uncover more about how the brain generates this illusion. The journey to understand consciousness invites us to explore not only the outer world, but the inner landscape of the mind. And perhaps the greatest mystery is that consciousness, the very thing we rely on to know reality, may itself be a beautiful, intricate hallucination. You're a biological machine. From the moment you wake up to the second you drift off to sleep, your body is working tirelessly, performing countless tasks with incredible precision and efficiency. Unlike any man-made machine, your body is self-regulating, self-healing, and capable of adaptation on a scale that humans have only begun to understand. Today, we're going to explore what it means to be a biological machine, how your cells, organs, and systems come together to create the miraculous organism that is you. Every biological machine, including you, is built from one fundamental unit, the cell. Think of cells as the tiny machines that make up the body's vast factory. Alone, a cell is a basic machine, but as they come together in the millions and billions, they form highly specialized structures. These cells build tissues which form organs, which then work in harmony within systems. The heart pumps blood, the lungs take in oxygen, the brain processes information. Each component performs its function with extraordinary precision. Your brain is perhaps the most complex biological machine in existence. These connections allow for the fastest communication network known in biology. The brain processes sensory input, controls your movements, regulates your emotions, and houses your memories. It even manages subconscious tasks like maintaining your body temperature or controlling your heartbeat. All of this happens automatically, without your conscious effort. But what powers this incredible biological machine? Energy. Just like any machine, your body needs fuel, and it gets this from the food you eat. The carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in your diet are broken down into simpler molecules during digestion. These molecules are then transported to your cells, where chemical reactions convert them into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. ATP is the energy currency of your body. It powers every process, from muscle contraction to nerve signaling. Your muscles are machines within the machine, converting chemical energy into mechanical work. When your brain sends a signal to move, specialized proteins inside muscle cells, called actin and myosin, interact in a process fueled by ATP. This interaction shortens the muscle fibers, creating movement. Whether it's a deliberate action like picking up a cup or an involuntary reflex, this is how your body gets things done. At the same time, your circulatory system acts like a vast transportation network. The heart, a powerful pump, sends blood coursing through arteries and veins, delivering oxygen and nutrients to every cell and removing waste products like carbon dioxide. Imagine this network as millions of highways constantly ferrying vital supplies to keep your cellular machines running smoothly. Breathing is another fascinating process controlled by your biological machine. Your lungs expand and contract, drawing in air rich in oxygen. Oxygen then diffuses into your bloodstream, where it binds to hemoglobin and red blood cells. This oxygen-rich blood fuels your cells' metabolic machinery, enabling them to produce ATP, the energy that keeps you alive. Your immune system acts like the body's security team, constantly on patrol to defend against invaders like viruses, bacteria, and unhealthy cells. It's a dynamic, adaptive system that can identify specific threats and remember them for future defense. This biological machine not only protects but also maintains order inside your physical body. All the while, your endocrine system quietly regulates your internal environment through hormones, chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream to target organs. These hormones coordinate essential functions like growth, metabolism, reproduction, and stress responses. For instance, the hormone insulin helps regulate blood sugar levels, ensuring your cells have a steady supply of energy. Sleep, often overlooked in its importance, is another critical function of your biological machine. During sleep, your body undertakes repair and maintenance work that cannot be done efficiently while awake. Your brain consolidates memories, your muscles recover and grow, and your immune system is strengthened. Sleep ensures that your biological machines remain in optimal condition. This biological machinery is not static. It constantly adapts to changes inside and outside your body. When you exercise regularly, your muscles build greater strength and endurance by adding more mitochondria, the tiny power plants within each cell that produce ATP. When you expose your skin to sunlight, your body produces vitamin D, vital for bone health and immune function. The process of aging itself can be seen as the gradual wear and tear on your biological machines. Over time, cellular damage accumulates due to oxidative stress, DNA mutations, and the decline of repair mechanisms. However, your body's built-in maintenance systems work to slow this process as much as possible, highlighting the resilience of this biological machine. Your senses are incredible detectors, acting as input devices that feed information about the environment back to the control center in your brain. Light entering your eyes, sound waves hitting your ears, chemical signals in your nose and tongue, pressure and temperature sensors in your skin. All of these help your brain react and adapt, ensuring your survival and well-being. Even your thoughts and emotions can be understood through the lens of the biological machine. Neurochemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol influence your mood and motivation, a complex network of signals generated by your brain's electrochemical machinery. Understanding these interactions helps explain why physical health and mental health are deeply intertwined. At the smallest scale, molecular machines inside your cells carry out vital functions. Proteins fold into precise shapes to perform enzymatic reactions. Molecular motors transport cargo along cellular highways. DNA and RNA work together to store and execute genetic instructions. These microscopic machines provide the foundation for all the processes happening at the systemic level. What sets biological machines apart from human-made devices is their ability to self-repair and reproduce. Cells continuously monitor their own components, repairing damage or triggering programmed cell death when necessary. New cells are born through division, allowing tissues to renew themselves. This capacity for regeneration is a hallmark of living systems. The biological machine called you is not only influenced by internal factors but also by your environment. Temperature, nutrition, stress, and social interactions all affect how well your biological systems perform. This means you hold a great degree of control over the maintenance and optimization of your own biological machinery. One striking example of this adaptability is how your body responds to stress. The fight or flight response is a coordinated cascade of hormonal and nervous system signals preparing you to respond to danger. Heart rate increases, pupils dilate, glucose floods your bloodstream, all designed to maximize your chances of survival in a critical moment. Though designed for crisis, when this response is triggered chronically, it can lead to wear and strain on your biological machine, illustrating the importance of balance. Your biological machine also relies heavily on communication between parts. Whether via the nervous system's electrical signals or the endocrine system's chemical messengers, coordination makes complex functions possible. It is this integrated communication that enables you to think, move, feel, and heal as a unified whole. At the heart of your biological machine is DNA, the instruction manual for building and maintaining you. It contains the genetic code that specifies how proteins are made, how cells divide, and how your body develops and functions. DNA is a marvel of molecular engineering, capable of replicating with extreme fidelity, yet flexible enough to allow evolution and adaptation over generations. Given the complexity and coordination required in your body, It's remarkable how seamless and automatic it all feels. Breathing, digesting, moving. Even thinking, these processes mostly run in the background without conscious effort. Yet by appreciating the biological machines at work, you gain a deeper understanding and appreciation for the incredible system that is you. As you go through your day, remember you're not just a person having experiences, you are a biological machine powered by chemistry and electricity, assembled from microscopic components, performing feats of engineering that rival the finest human inventions. This machine is dynamic, resilient, and continuously adapting, able to repair itself, learn, and evolve. Treating your biological machine with care is essential. Proper nutrition provides the raw materials for repair and energy. Regular physical activity keeps muscles, bones, and organs functioning optimally. Adequate sleep allows regenerative processes to take place. Managing stress and maintaining social connections support overall well-being. Together, these practices help your biological machine perform at its best. Science is continually uncovering new layers of complexity within this biological machine. Advances in genetics, neuroscience, and biotechnology reveal mechanisms never before imagined. These discoveries not only deepen our understanding but also hold promise for improving health and longevity in ways once thought impossible. In the end, recognizing yourself as a biological machine changes the way you view health, aging, and life itself. You are a system of interconnected parts, finely tuned and extraordinarily capable. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, every thought and action is the result of this intricate biological machinery operating seamlessly. Emotions are chemical reactions. They color our experiences, influence our decisions, and shape the way we interact with the world around us. But have you ever paused to consider what emotions really are at their core? Beneath the surface of feelings like joy, sadness, anger, or fear lies a fascinating biological reality. Emotions are fundamentally chemical reactions occurring within our brains and bodies. At its essence, an emotion begins as a response to a stimulus, something you see, hear, touch, or even think about. When this stimulus is detected, your nervous system springs into action. Your brain interprets the information, evaluating whether it is something to approach with curiosity or something to avoid for safety's sake. This evaluation, often conscious but sometimes unconscious, triggers the release of a complex cocktail of chemicals known as neurotransmitters and hormones. One of the key players in this process is a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Often dubbed the feel-good chemical, dopamine is released in response to rewarding or pleasurable experiences. It heightens feelings of pleasure, motivation, and reinforcement. Imagine the rush of excitement when you achieve something great, like acing an exam or receiving praise at work. That pleasant surge you experience is, in large part, the result of dopamine flooding your system. But it's not just dopamine working behind the scenes. Another important neurotransmitter involved in emotions is serotonin. Serotonin helps regulate mood, social behavior, appetite, and sleep. Low levels of serotonin are often associated with feelings of depression or anxiety. Many antidepressant medications work by increasing the availability of serotonin in the brain, aiming to restore balance and alleviate negative emotional states. Then there is norepinephrine, a chemical that acts as both a neurotransmitter and hormone, which plays a crucial role in the body's fight or flight response. When faced with stress or danger, norepinephrine levels spike, causing your heart rate and blood pressure to rise. This prepares your body to either confront the threat or flee from it. This physiological shift is intimately tied to emotional experiences we label as fear or anxiety. Adding another layer to this complex web is oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or love hormone. Oxytocin is released during moments of connection, such as hugging, nurturing, or even social bonding with friends. It promotes feelings of trust, empathy, and attachment, reinforcing social bonds and emotional intimacy. Consider the classic emotion of fear. When you see a spider unexpectedly crawling near you, your brain instantly processes this as a potential threat. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped part of the brain responsible for processing emotions, activates and signals the hypothalamus. This prompts your adrenal glands to release adrenaline, also known as epinephrine, flooding your bloodstream and triggering the fight or flight response. Your heart races, your breath quickens, and your muscles tense. These chemical changes prepare your body to respond swiftly, all within fractions of a second. Happiness, on the other hand, is often a result of the release of endorphins, natural chemicals produced by the brain to relieve pain and induce pleasure. They create what's known as a runner's high, a euphoric feeling experienced after prolonged physical activity. Endorphins function similarly to opiates, interacting with the brain's opioid receptors to generate feelings of well-being. Anger, too, has its chemical roots. When anger arises, increased levels of adrenaline and noradrenaline prime your body for immediate action. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, also surges in the bloodstream. This combination heightens alertness and physical readiness, but can take a toll if sustained for too long, leading to chronic stress and health issues. While it's clear that chemicals drive the experience of emotions, it's essential to understand that emotions are more than just raw chemical reactions. They are complex processes involving perception, cognition, memory, and physiological changes. Our brains interpret chemical signals in context, shaped by past experiences, cultural background, and individual personality. This means that the same chemical release might manifest as different emotions in different individuals, or even the same individual in different circumstances. For example, the release of adrenaline before public speaking may result in anxiety for one person, but excitement or thrill for another. This subjective experience is shaped by the brain's interpretation of the chemical signals and what the situation means to the individual. Furthermore, the chemistry of emotions is bidirectional. While stimuli lead to chemical releases that generate emotions, our emotional state can also influence our body's chemistry. Chronic stress or prolonged negative emotional states can alter hormone levels, neurotransmitter function, and even brain structure. This can lead to mood disorders, immune system suppression, and a range of physical health problems. Emerging research also highlights the role of the gut-brain axis, the communication network between the digestive system and the brain in emotional regulation. The gut hosts trillions of microbes that produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. This means your gut health can directly influence your emotional well-being. It's a reminder that emotions are not isolated in the brain, but are integrated with the biology of the entire body. The interplay between psychological and chemical layers of emotions has inspired various therapeutic approaches. Mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and other psychotherapies aim to recalibrate how the brain interprets stimuli, thereby influencing the chemical cascades that follow. Meanwhile, medications target specific neurotransmitters to restore chemical balance. Understanding that emotions are chemical reactions does not mean they are less real or meaningful. On the contrary, it reveals the remarkable biological orchestration behind every smile, tear, or feeling of passion. These chemicals are part of the intricate dance that allows us to experience the rich tapestry of human life. Even love, often thought of as a purely mystical or spiritual experience, has a chemical foundation. The initial stages of romantic love involve heightened dopamine and norepinephrine, creating feelings of euphoria and focused attention. Over time, the sustained bonding is maintained by oxytocin and vasopressin, chemicals that promote attachment and long-term connection. Similarly, empathy, the ability to feel and understand the emotions of others, has chemical underpinnings. Mirror neurons in the brain activate when we observe someone else's emotional expressions. Oxytocin enhances empathy and social connection, facilitating compassionate relationships. In moments of sadness or grief, changes in neurotransmitters and hormones reflect the emotional pain. Serotonin levels may drop, while cortisol rises. These chemical changes can feel physically painful, underscoring the profound link between body and mind. This biological perspective also helps demystify why emotions can sometimes feel overwhelming or out of our control. When chemical reactions cascade rapidly, they can overpower rational thinking or lead to intense emotional states. Recognizing the chemical basis offers an opportunity for compassion toward oneself and others in moments of emotional turbulence. At the same time, this knowledge empowers us to influence our emotional chemistry. Exercise, meditation, diet, social connection, and sufficient sleep all modulate neurotransmitter and hormone levels, helping to maintain emotional balance. Even simple practices like deep breathing can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing stress hormones and calming the emotional response. It's also important to note that the brain's plasticity means it can adapt and rewire itself in response to experiences. changing how chemical reactions manifest over time. This adaptability is the foundation for emotional growth and healing. In summary, emotions are complex chemical reactions occurring within the brain and body, triggered by stimuli and shaped by context, experience, and cognition. Neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and hormones such as adrenaline, cortisol, and oxytocin orchestrate the diverse spectrum of human emotions. These chemicals prepare our bodies for action, communicate social signals, reinforce behaviors, and color our subjective experience. By recognizing emotions as chemical processes, we gain insight into the biological roots of our feelings and behaviors. This understanding fosters empathy, self-awareness, and a practical approach to emotional health. Emotions are not just fleeting sensations, rather, they are the beautiful, intricate chemical symphony that enables the full experience of being human.